Chapter 421, Ambushed by Devil Cultivators. The Zhao family has sent a letter. And Siwei respectfully presented a small, light green envelope with both hands. Li Qinghong took it, noting that the letter was as soft as cloth or silk rather than ordinary paper. To think that they use some kind of spirit cloth for letters. The Zhao family truly lives up to their reputation as an immortal clan, and Siwei bowed before withdrawing. Li Qinghong unfolded the letter and read the first line. From Gitu, the Liao River is situated in the Liao of northern Yan. The Zhao family knows little about it, and the Liao River Temple is unknown to us. We only know that Liao is a cold and harsh place, where Buddhism cultivation began long ago. Many ascetic cultivators reside there, and the sutras are strictly guarded. Cultivators are often denied access, but there are no notable figures wielding divine abilities. Nowadays, Buddhist cultivators practice the 7 Dharma forms, which differ significantly from the ways of Liao, northern Yan. Li Qinghong put the letter away and ran her fingers along the handle of her spear with a contemplative expression. Suddenly, she detected a fluctuation from the grand formation. A black-clad man appeared and landed on the mountaintop swiftly. Qinghong, big brother. Seeing Li Yunjiao descend, Li Qinghong knew he must have brought the mirror with him. She then handed over the letter, which Li Yunjiao read with a serious expression. After a moment, he said softly, "Let's descend the mountain to meet him." 2 figures flew out of the grand formation and saw a monk carrying a piece of redwood, splitting it into several pieces with his bare hands before smoothing them, sending wood shavings flying into the wind. A man clad in black and a beautiful woman landed at the foot of the mountain. The man appeared somber, while the woman in white exuded a commanding presence. Qingheng immediately set the redwood down and rose to his feet. Qingheng greets Taoists. "I am Li Yunjiao. I'll gladly answer any questions you have, Master Monk," Li Yunjiao replied with a calm demeanor. Qingheng bowed and replied, "I am not fit to be called a master monk. Nevertheless, I am simply passing by and wish to stay here for a while as a guest cultivator." Li Yunjiao smiled and observed Qingheng's serene and clear eyes before refusing politely. "I'm afraid that my modest home is ill-suited to accommodate an esteemed monk like yourself from a grand temple. To the east, half a month's journey away, is the Zhao residence, home to an immortal clan. Perhaps you might consider visiting them." Qingheng shook his head helplessly and responded, "I wish to cultivate in your family's territory for a while. If there's anything I can do, please let me know, Taoist." Li Yunjiao was slightly taken aback by Qingheng's insistence on staying despite his suggestion. Behind him, Li Qinghong raised an eyebrow and asked, "How can my family possibly agree to allow you to stay if you don't clarify your intentions?" Her voice was gentle, yet her tone was firm. Qingheng simply bowed his head. "I am facing a calamity and must seek refuge with your family. Please rest assured, I do not practice the 7 Dharma forms." His answer was still vague and unclear. Before Li Qinghong and Li Yunjiao could continue pressing on, a deafening roar echoed through the sky. Dark clouds of black qi rose from the town, which was accompanied by loud screams. The clouds swiftly moved through the streets and alleyways, and the town was filled with the sounds of malevolent laughter. Li Yunjiao felt heat rising in his chest. His face darkened as he shouted, "Devil cultivators." With a swift motion, he drew a talisman from his sleeve and sent it soaring into the sky where it ignited into crimson flames. Instantly, the grand formations on the Li family's 5 mountains activated, and multicolored barriers appeared around the mountains. As he rested his hand on his Qinch sword, doubts crept into his mind. He briefly glanced at the monk, who was equally astonished, and thought bitterly to himself, Buddhist cultivators are usually so good at divination. Now, as soon as Qingheng arrives, a demon cultivator appears. Could this be a deliberate act, some kind of scheme? His thoughts were interrupted by a loud, mocking voice. "Ha ha ha, you reacted pretty quickly." The cloud of devil qi was fast approaching. A rough voice came from the mist, accompanied by a swirling white mist and the indistinct figures of people. A devil cultivator in black stepped forward. He was a peak qi cultivator. He immediately greeted Li Yunjiao with a palm strike and exclaimed, "Where is Li Xuanxuan? He has certainly made me suffer. Q is here to settle the score." Having heard about everything that had transpired in the marketplace from Li Xuanxuan, Li Yunjiao immediately realized the severity of the situation. His heart sank, knowing that this cultivator wielded an unusual and destructive technique that was extremely difficult to deal with. The Qinch sword flew from his hand, unleashing a radiant sword arc through the air. The sword qi collided with the white mist, dissipating several of its wisps and forcing them back toward the devil cultivator's face. A Foundation Establishment Realm Dharma artifact. Upon seeing his usually invincible spell so easily countered, the devil cultivator was visibly delighted instead of surprised. A greedy glint appeared in his eyes as he shattered the sword qi with his palm strike. "I suppose sword immortal clans are something else entirely. To think that even a qi cultivator can wield a Foundation Establishment Dharma artifact. How extravagant." As soon as he finished his exclamation, a thunderclap echoed through the air. Rumble. Without a word, Li Qingheng had swung her white iris spear, unleashing a purple dragon's shadow. Q gathered white qi in his hand before delivering a palm strike to the side of the spear, causing a loud explosion. Another Foundation Establishment Realm Dharma artifact, he exclaimed. Li Qingheng's face hardened with silent fury, knowing that her younger brother, Li Yuanyuan, was killed by this devil cultivator. Her spear moved with lethal precision, delivering a relentless barrage of strikes. Oblivious to the fact that the mortal he casually killed before was Li Qingheng's younger brother, the devil cultivator surnamed Q saw only the deep-seated hatred in the female cultivator's eyes. He neutralized her attacks and looked at her contemptuously. Do you really think I'm like those other weaklings practicing the Blood Dharma manual, who only know how to flee but not fight? You think thunder is going to scare me away? I might be afraid if you unleash some sort of spell instead. Despite his tough act, he was beginning to feel the pressure from Li Qingheng's relentless assault. With Li Yuanjiao joining the fray, he could only focus on defense for the moment. However, he did not come here alone. Amidst the swirling smoke, several figures emerged that were all glowing with red and black light. They were laughing loudly, mockingly. Master Q, are you struggling against these Qi cultivators of the 6th and 7th heavenly layer? One devil Qi cultivator at the 6th heavenly layer stepped forward with a mocking laugh, holding a Dharma artifact that appeared to be a red mirror. After his teasing remark, he simply walked past the 3 battling cultivators and led his companions toward Mount Yuding. Mount Yuding's grand formation, left behind by the family years ago, was of moderate power in the Qi cultivation realm. As the devil cultivators attacked, the surface of the barrier rippled like water. The group, armed with various tools, a hammer, a mirror, a large shield, and even a rare pagoda, were unable to break through the formation's defenses. Their combined efforts only created ripples on the surface of the formation. Under the intense pressure from the 2 attackers, the devil cultivator surnamed Q grew increasingly frustrated and cursed. Damn Zhang Huid, I'm struggling here, and yet you're busy attacking the formation. Combine your forces to deal with these 2 first, then we can divide the spoils. Really, how stupid can you be? Zhang Huid shrugged indifferently and said with a smile, Boss, give me a moment to break this formation and then I'll come back to help you. Devil cultivators were often driven by greed. Seeing Mount Yuding as a tempting prize, they were naturally eager to take advantage of the situation, striking first to loot the place while Q was kept busy by the 2 cultivators. Although Li Qijing and Li Tongya are dead, the Li family might still have hidden tricks up their sleeves. Zhang Hu thought to himself with a cold smile, I should just grab a few valuables and go. Wouldn't want to piss those 2 off too much. If they unleash their divine ability, talisman, Dharma sword, or jade token, they could easily crush us like ants. With his perceptive abilities heightened by his cultivation, Zhang Huid felt a shiver at the sight of Li Yuanjiao's kinked sword. Instinctively, he wanted to retreat and only focused on escaping with whatever he could get. Chapter 422, Ambushed by Devil Cultivators II. Just then, several streams of light appeared in the distance, streaking across the sky. Leading them was a man with a shiny bald head clad in leather fur. Little devil cultivators, how dare you trespass on my immortal mountain? Do you wish to get a taste of my immortal sword? The man was Njayan, a cultivator at the 8th layer of the Qi cultivation realm. Sweat beaded his forehead as his sons, Ensiming and Ensiwei, were within Mount Yuding's grand formation. Without any hesitation, he unleashed a barrage of spells at the devil cultivator. Zhang Huid remained unfazed. With a flick of his hand, he released a blood-colored monolight that easily neutralized Njayan's spells. How absurd. It seems like you're all talk, he laughed derisively. Despite Njayan's advanced cultivation at the 8th heavenly layer of the Qi cultivation realm, Zhang Huid, at the 6th heavenly layer, but armed with the Blood Dharma manual and numerous secret techniques, proved to be more than a match for him. Li Xuanxuan, with a grim expression, followed closely behind. Armed with a large axe and at the 7th heavenly layer of Qi cultivation, his appearance was that of a formidable cultivator from the main lineage. He was accompanied by an elderly monkey at the 4th heavenly layer of the Qi cultivation realm. Together, they presented a truly formidable and imposing presence indeed. Li Xuanxuan looked at the devil cultivators below him, initially apprehensive, but then smirking as he exchanged a few blows with a devil cultivator of the 5th heavenly layer of the Qi cultivation realm. And here I thought you were a big deal, he remarked with an arched brow. The next 2 streams of light were Tian Zhongqing, Tian Yaodao, and Su Gongming. All 3 early-stage Qi cultivators worked together to fend off an early-stage devil cultivator. Seeing that breaching Yuding was proving difficult, the remaining 2 devil cultivators decided to abandon the formation and attack Tian Zhongqing and his uncle. Kung Heng, who had been left behind by the crowd, sighed deeply. With a swift motion, he wielded his staff and rode the wind, despite being only a monk. A golden light began pooling in his hands. Do not commit any sins of murder, benefactors, he boomed, The staff, adorned with copper rings, whirled and danced at incredible speed, trapping the two devil cultivators instantly. The golden light in his hands radiated brightly. The two devil cultivators were taken aback and shouted in alarm, "A master monk." Unlike immortal cultivators, Buddhist cultivators could only ride the wind when they became master monks with strength comparable to that of a mid-stage Foundation Establishment realm cultivator. This realization caught the two devil cultivators by surprise, prompting the red glow on their bodies to intensify as they instinctively pulled apart. Yet, the golden light was suppressing their blood light. The two were startled before realization finally struck them. One of the cultivators, who was wielding a large shield, exclaimed, "And here I was wonderin' why a monk could fly and thought him a master monk. Turns out it is a Dharma artifact he's wielding." The other cultivator, who had a similar face to him, cursed, "You fool, master told us to speak the official language." The loud exchange startled King Heng, whose tiny eyes widened slightly in surprise as he recognized their accent. "You're from Zhao State," he exclaimed. As the two devil cultivators raised their Dharma artifacts and made their move to attack King Heng, the monk quickly blocked their attacks with his staff. However, the relentless assault of the two cultivators forced him backward. The shield-bearer urged, "No, a Buddhist enemy we mustn't provoke." The other, who was wielding a pagoda, silently relented. Despite King Heng's efforts, he found himself on the defensive, with the situation stalemated. Zhang Huid, who heard the entire conversation clearly, let out an exasperated sigh. He muttered in frustration, "Those two worthless fools." He was engaged in a fierce battle with Jian, and while Qiu was attacking unrelentingly, he still struggled to shake off his opponents. Initially uncoordinated due to a lack of opportunity to fight together in the past, Li Yunjiao and Li Qingheng gradually found their synergy. Li Qingheng's thunder techniques and Li Yunjiao's sharp sword qi began to turn the tide in their favor. The cultivator surnamed Qiu, who relied on a cultivation technique that was most effective against Dharma artifacts and flesh, had enjoyed success over the years. However, he was unlucky to run into these qi cultivators who wielded Foundation Establishment realm Dharma artifacts. No matter how hard he tried, he could not penetrate their defenses. This left him in a state of great frustration. He scanned the battlefield, his anxiety easing as he saw that his side had a significant advantage in several areas. With the situation more favorable, he coldly mocked the two opponents he was contending with. "So what if your Dharma artifacts are impressive? Your spear and sword chi are still inferior and can't break my spell." As soon as he had finished speaking, three more figures arrived: Xiao Giluan, Madame Du, and a guest cultivator, Li Qileng. Li Qileng, a qi cultivator at the third heavenly layer with an honest face, stood behind the women. Xiao Giluan's phoenix eyes quickly scanned the battlefield and instructed decisively, "Save the Tian family first." Tian Zhongqing and his uncle practiced a subpar cultivation technique and lacked effective Dharma artifacts or spells. As a result, they were steadily pushed back by the devil cultivators' particularly powerful attacks, finding themselves in constant danger. The devil cultivator's hammer struck him hard, causing Tian Zhongqing to cough up blood. His face was flushed red and his hands trembled uncontrollably. Despite his pain, he managed to utter words of thanks. With the arrival of 3 reinforcements, the situation shifted dramatically. Xiao Giluan, wielding the Xiao family's Grade 3 cultivation technique and her Dharma artifact, a silk shawl, made a significant impact on the battle. Through combined efforts, they overwhelmed the devil cultivator, who was now desperately calling for help. Seeing the situation take a turn for the worse, Zhang Huid could no longer hold back. He activated a spell, slapping Jian aside, and raised his red mirror high into the air. Concentrating his mana, he made the mirror glow with a fierce red light. Boom! A bolt of purple lightning streaked across the sky, disrupting his spell. Shamali, who had traveled from eastern Mount Yue and was now at the 4th heavenly layer of the Qi cultivation realm, arrived just in time. Wielding thunder, he joined the fight to support Jian. Zhang Huid was thrown into a panic as he saw Jian now supported by a thunder cultivator, whose power was particularly effective against devil cultivators. Just as he was beginning to turn the tide of the battle, this unexpected arrival had made his task even more daunting. Zhang Mudong. "Move faster," Zhang Huid shouted. Zhang Mudong, a mid-stage Qi devil cultivator, was struggling to keep up with Li Xuangshuan and the old monkey. He frantically unleashed several spells, his frustration evident as blood light flowed chaotically around him. Despite Li Xuangshuan's dire condition, he managed to hold his ground while spitting out mouthfuls of blood. The devil cultivator, however, was struggling to catch his breath after the old monkey dealt him a heavy blow from behind him. Meanwhile, Zhang Huid could only watch the entire scene in bewilderment. Upon seeing the situation stabilizing, Li Qingheng exchanged a glance with her elder brother. Li Yunjiao immediately understood her intention. He stepped forward with his sword while Li Qingheng performed a hand seal, conjuring a swirl of purple light. Purple Talisman Origin Light Secret Technique. This was one of the 2 secret techniques from the Purple Thunder Secret Origin Technique Manual, a technique that had long been forgotten and lost its name. After years of study, Li Qingheng had finally mastered its subtleties and given it a name. She brought her hands together, gently rubbing them to conjure a rich purple light. She then traced talisman symbols in the air, carefully outlining each character. Seeing this, the cultivator surnamed Q was immediately alarmed. He quickly brought his hands together and unleashed clouds of white qi. "Shit, this bitch is getting serious. Zhang Huid, stop hiding and act now," he yelled frantically. Zhang Huid's face grew grim as he adjusted his robe. His sleeves billowed without wind as he summoned a swirling blood-red light from his body. In a deep voice he commanded, "Fellow Taoists, protect me." Chapter 423, Shattered Eye. The devil cultivator surnamed Q saw Zhang Huid's pathetic state. He could not help but wonder about the man's true abilities. The ancestor Diffu sent this person, but I can't tell his purpose here. From the look on the ancestor's face, this guy likely has some background. Perhaps he has some trick up his sleeve. Gritting his teeth in frustration, the devil cultivator pushed his palms out. White qi surged forth as he tried to resist the thunder talisman Li Qingheng unleashed with a yell. The two attacks collided with a loud noise, and Q tried forcing it away with all his might. Li Qingheng's purple talisman origin light secret technique was the highest grade spell available in the Li family. Spells and techniques were strictly controlled by the 3 sects and 7 gates, so the Li family was unable to obtain other secret techniques of comparable quality. Boom! The talisman in front of Q exploded. Purple lightning crackled aloud, and white smoke billowed in every direction. "Ah!" the devil cultivator cried out in pain, his palms now scorched black. But before he could even catch his breath, a brilliant sword light had emerged from the smoke and dust, heading directly for his neck. The devil cultivator had no choice but to use his hands to defend himself. His spell was shattered by Li Qingheng's thunder talisman, and the Qingch sword, a Foundation Establishment Realm Dharma artifact, flashed with deadly precision, cleanly severing 5 of his fingers. Blood streamed from the stumps as his eyes burned with rage. "Damn it, Zhang Huid, Q Jai is getting out of here," he screamed. The light in Zhang Huid's hand continued to intensify. Li Yuanjiao had readied the last remaining Foundation Establishment Realm talisman from his clan in his hand, while gripping the Qingch sword with his other, his gaze fixated on Zhang Huid. As Li Yuanjiao's gaze locked onto him, Zhang Huid felt a sharp pain in the center of his forehead but remained calm and unafraid. "Pitiful fool, I shall let you witness the true power of a devil cultivator's secret technique," he declared coldly and arrogantly. The devil cultivators around him were thrilled, eager for him to strike. Zhang Huid lifted the red mirror up high. 5 jade rings appeared around him as he recited loudly, "By the grace of the heavens, preaching across 10 jungles in the underworld, I call upon the law of the 4 seas and the great void, the blood imperial void escape spell." The mirror in his hands flickered as his body transformed into a blood-colored stream of light. It was no larger than a fist, trailing a long red tail as it swiftly moved away. The field fell silent. The devil cultivators were too stunned to even utter curses. Among those who had been contemplating escape but were surrounded by the Li family, the ones most aware of Zhang Huid's shamelessness reacted the quickest. Taking advantage of the crowd's distraction, the devil cultivator seized an opening. With his hammer, he shattered the mana shield of Tian Yaoda, the weakest among the group, and struck him squarely in the chest. Crack! A sickening sound of splintering bone filled the air. "Uncle!" Tian Zhongqing's anguished cry pierced through the chaos. Qiu Jai's figure blurred as he retreated, enveloped in a blood-red light, moving in a direction different from where Zhang Huid had vanished. Of course, Li Yunjiao and Li Qingheng were not going to let him escape. They rode the wind and gave chase, not anticipating that Qiu Jai would be heading straight towards Su Gongming, who was armed with a Dharma artifact. While Su Gongming was fighting another devil cultivator and saw Qiu Jai approaching, his eyes immediately lit up. "If I can delay him for even a moment, it might earn me some credit." With that thought in mind, he swung his Dharma artifact, the ebony saber, in an attempt to intercept Qiu Jai. Unfortunately, since the family had no legacy to help him wield a saber effectively, he could not even manifest proper saber chi. Qiu Jai, annoyed by the interference, sneered at the audacity of the puny ant whom he could easily crush with a strike of his palm. "How dare you, vermin!" he roared angrily. Without hesitation, Qiu Jai unleashed a blast of white qi, which instantly enveloped Su Gongming's embryonic breathing realm Dharma artifact, shattering it instantly. The white qi also breached his protective mana shield, striking his cheek with devastating force. As flesh and blood splattered everywhere, Su Gongming plummeted from midair with a cry, no longer able to maintain his footing. Madame Du rushed to catch him, attempting to dispel the malevolent qi from his face. Meanwhile, the Li siblings pressed on, pursuing Qiu Jai. At that moment, Enjayan, who had received a beating from Zhang Huid earlier, regained his strength and moved to intercept the hammer-wielding devil cultivator who was in the early stage of the qi cultivation realm. He had always been close to Tian Yaoda. Upon seeing the state he was in, Njayan's rage boiled over as he yelled out in anguish, "Scoundrel!" Njayan, at the 8th heavenly layer of the Chi cultivation realm, forced the Devil Cultivator back with a powerful palm strike, gaining an overwhelming advantage. The Devil Cultivator spat out blood at the impact, now too disoriented to even take flight. Boom! The combined efforts of the group quickly overwhelmed the Devil Cultivator. They battered him into a bloody mess and incinerated him with a barrage of fire spells, reducing him to a charred heap. Tian Zhongqing had already descended to his uncle's side. Tian Yaodao's bloody chest was no longer moving, and was lying on the ground with a pallid face. The hammer had struck him squarely in the chest, causing his eyes to bulge and the area around them to turn purple. He had also broken several bones when he plummeted from the sky and hit the ground with extreme force. The once venerable old man now lay limp and paralyzed in his nephew's arms, blood staining the ground all around him. On the other side, one of the people fighting King Heng shouted, "Hey, Zhang has fled. Damn it, let's retreat too." These two brothers, who had been fighting King Heng half-heartedly, quickly apologized to him before also escaping. The last Devil Cultivator, Zhang Mudong, faced the worst fate. The blood wind he summoned was instantly shattered by Shamali's lightning, and he was not as powerful as Qiu Jai and so failed to take flight several times. The members of the Li family closed in on him and brandished their Dharma artifacts fiercely. All sorts of Dharma artifacts and spells rained down on him instantly. His red-glazed beads deflected some attacks, but Shamali's persistent strikes kept disrupting his blood wind, preventing his escape. Zhang Mudong endured a few more breaths than the other Devil Chi cultivators. In his desperate struggle, he managed to injure a few more people before finally being dismembered. After being incinerated by fire and struck by lightning, he was completely dead. As the situation settled, Li Yunjiao and his sister returned as well. However, Li Yunjiao looked pretty upset to have come back empty-handed. Qiu Jai had been incredibly ruthless, using every secret spell at his disposal to escape. Despite their river crossing torrential steppe, which was adept at evasion, it proved less effective against Qiu Jai's relentless escape tactics. Even with their skills, they struggled to find a way to secure his capture. As they strayed further and further away from home, they eventually had to give up and turn back, fearing that the enemy would lead them into a trap. "My lord." Among the injured, Li Xuanxun and Tian Zhongqing fared worse, but Li Xuanxun was doing slightly better since he had the support of his monkey. Tian Zhongqing, however, held Tian Yaodao's corpse with tears streaming down his face. Su Gongming had lost consciousness. Half of his face was reduced to exposed bone, presenting a truly horrifying sight. Despite the severe disfigurement, he sustained no further serious injuries. His Dharma artifact had absorbed much of the attack's force, which was already weakened in the first place due to Qiu Jai's injuries. Among the guest cultivators, Li Qileng and Njayan were the least injured and were tending to the others on site. Madame Du cradled Li Xuanxun, who appeared extremely aged in her arms. At that moment, they looked like father and daughter instead. While everyone was tending to their wounds, Xiao Gilwen approached her husband and announced softly, "Elder Tian has fallen." Li Yunjiao tightened his grip on the Foundation Establishment Realm talisman in his sleeve as he watched Granduncle Tian lying lifelessly on the ground. Standing with his sword in hand, he could not bear to look at Tian Zhongqing's pained expression and sent Li Qinghong to console him instead. About an hour later, as the sky began to dim, Li Qileng handed 2 storage pouches to Li Yunjiao, and then approached Tian Zhongqing to offer a few words of comfort before leaving him to grieve in silence. Chapter 424, Shattered Eye. King Heng approached silently with his staff, the copper rings on it jingling with each step he took. Li Yunjiao, overwhelmed with complex emotions and still grappling with his own suspicions, lowered his gaze. "Many thanks for your help, monk." King Heng shook his head slightly, then walked over to Tian Yaodao's limp body. He quietly recited a few sutra verses as if offering a blessing for the deceased. However, Tian Zhongqing suddenly raised his head and let out a loud wail. "Go away, bald donkey. Nothing good happens when you guys are around," he shouted in anguish. However, King Heng remained unruffled. He retreated a few steps, then addressed Li Yunjiao warmly. "I will be cultivating at the little island near the lake. If your esteemed clan needs anything, they may come find me there." With that said, he rode the wind and swiftly departed. The remaining people began taking their leave too as the hues of the crimson sunset and the blood-stained ground overlapped with each other. Li Qinghong offered a few more words of comfort to Tian Zhongqing, who then picked up Tian Yaodao's body and apologized to Li Yunjiao before he left. In the forest, only the core members of the Li family remained. Li Yunjiao stood alone. Li Xuanxun coughed slightly before wiping the trail of blood from the corner of his mouth. There is no fault in choosing and weighing the costs. Li Yunjiao nodded slowly, gripping the green and white Qingche sword tightly. "I understand. As I hold this sword, it is only right that I prioritize the clan's interests above all else, even if it means bearing dirt and grudges." Tian Yaodao, younger brother to Tian Yun, was Li Xuanfeng and Li Jingxin's uncle. He He was an elder of significant status in the Li family and one of the few who had broken through to the Qi cultivation realm. His death at the hands of the devil cultivators was a significant loss. The funeral ceremony was simple. Apart from the immediate Li and Tian families, the other guests showed little grief, and some even felt a sense of relief. The battle had killed 2 devil cultivators, one of whom was a mid-stage Qi cultivator. Naturally, the Qi cultivators in the family were too excited by the prospects of the spoils to be mourning at the moment. Meanwhile, at the central hall in Lijiang Town, where the head of the Li family, Li Yuanping, who handled the family affairs, also served as the center of the Li family's secular power. Originally magnificent, the hall now showed its age, with worn bricks on the steps visibly marking the passage of time. Since the Li family had been accused of indulgence and luxury, Li Yuanping had not made any attempts to repair the building and simply used it as it was. Today, it was Li Yuanjiao who occupied the seat, all dressed in white, with 2 storage pouches before him. An ordinary Qi cultivator typically carried only about 10 spirit stones on them, with a net worth ranging from 30 to 40 stones. However, they had seized a total of 46 spirit stones from these 2 devil cultivators alone. Even the Li family would struggle to produce this amount of wealth within such a short time. Of the 11 cultivators who participated in the battle, 5 were direct family members. Su Gongming and Tian Zhongqing, both at the early stage of the Qi cultivation realm and severely injured, earned 3 spirit stones for contributing the most. Li Qiling received 2. The old monkey and Shamali, who were at the mid-stage of the Qi cultivation realm, acquired 2 spirit stones each, and Zhayan, at the late stage of the Qi cultivation realm, received 6. 10 more were allocated as Tian Yaodao's death gratuity, and the remaining 18 were confiscated. The external guest cultivators eagerly stepped forward to receive their share. Su Gongming, disfigured and concealing his appearance with a mask, smiled despite his condition. When Tian Zhongqing approached to claim the substantial sum of 13 spirit stones, Li Yuanjiao personally gave him a few bottles of medicine and asked him softly, "With grand-uncle's passing, is this gratuity received by Tian Rong, his only son?" Tian Zhongqing, having already composed himself, quickly responded in a respectful manner. "Old master, Tian Rong has always tended to mistreat maidservants." During the mourning period, he became heavily intoxicated and was secretly killed by several maidservants with a hairpin in the dead of night. It seems this sum will likely be claimed by the eldest and legitimate grandson, Tian Ling. Oh, the external guest cultivators showed no surprise. Tian Yaodao's only son was considered a disappointment. He not only lacked good judgment, but also got into conflicts with multiple families. Even the king of Mount Yue, Li Jimin, harbored deep disdain for him. It was Tian Yaodao's deep affection for his son that led him to protect him at all costs. Now that Tian Yaodao had been dead for half a month, any discussion of his death was overshadowed by the good karma he had accumulated during his lifetime. Whether his death was disgraceful or not was of little concern, and even Tian Zhongqing himself showed no interest in determining who was responsible. Li Yuanjiao stroked his beard and sighed. "Since granduncle is no longer around and has left behind this orphan, we will send him to the mountains for cultivation. From now on, the responsibility for his training will fall under the main family." Understood. Tian Zhongqing bowed and the guest cultivators began to withdraw, heading toward the town's tavern amidst their happy chatters. Li Qinghong, who was observing the situation, realized that Li Yuanjiao's actions and compensation were also a form of a test. "I need to send someone west to inform Aunt Jingshan," she said, feeling somewhat disheartened. "I've already done that," Li Yuanjiao replied, dismissing the blood qi, resentment qi, and cultivation technique on his desk. He picked up the hammer and the glazed beads, both of which were low-grade Qi cultivation realm Dharma artifacts. The hammer was unremarkable and could be sold off easily. This string of red glazed beads is a valuable Dharma artifact. The runes within are quite profound. They can release mana light for protection. "It'll be useful for the juniors," he remarked thoughtfully. With a flick of his wrist, a red light was released from the beads, which was accompanied by a flowing neutralizing force. Li Yuanjiao assessed its power and determined it could neutralize most early-stage Qi cultivation realm spells. "How about calling it?" Li Yuanjiao mumbled as he began thinking of a name for it. Li Qinghong, concerned that he might come up with something uncreative like red light beads or crimson light beads, quickly interjected with a smile. "I see that the beads are made of rouge glaze. They share the hue of dusk and hold all sorts of runes in them. Why not name it Glazed Dusk?" Li Yuanjiao thought for a moment, then nodded in agreement. "Good, send it to Zhejiang." The remaining items were mostly spirit items and embryonic breathing realm Dharma artifacts of unknown origins, and likely plundered from others. Altogether, they were worth about 10 spirit stones. Since Li Yuanjiao had recently sold a batch of spirit items and Dharma artifacts in the family vault, these truly helped. Combining all the spirit stones he had gathered, Li Yuanjiao finally accumulated 120 pieces together. He handed them to Li Qinghong with a sigh of relief. "Please take these to the Yuan family, sister." Li Qinghong nodded. Li Yunjiao hesitated briefly before taking out the bluish-gray mirror, which he handed over respectfully. He then retrieved the Foundation Establishment Realm talisman and continued, "I'm worried that Zhang Huid and Qiu Jai might still be plotting against us and could ambush you on the road. It would be better for you to make the trip with the mirror, just in case." As he watched Li Qinghong depart on the wind, Li Yunjiao took a deep breath. Counting the days, he took out a jade sprout pill and murmured quietly to himself, "It's time to cultivate in seclusion and break through to the 8th heavenly layer of the Qi cultivation realm." Upon riding the wind and returning to Mount Wudu, he saw Xiao Giluan standing in the courtyard, smiling and gazing at him. Li Yunjiao was puzzled but did not expect to see her phoenix eyes crinkle up as she said warmly, "It's time for you to think of a name again." Having been husband and wife for many years, they shared a deep bond and understood each other well without words. Seeing Xiao Giluan caressing her tummy, realization immediately dawned upon Li Yunjiao. What? He was both astonished and delighted. They already had a son when he was an embryonic breathing realm cultivator, and now that they were both Qi cultivators, the chances of having a child were even slimmer. He never expected much while bedding his wife, treating it as a way to bond with her. Xiao Giluan's unexpected pregnancy was joyous news to him. Laughing heartily, he kissed his wife and replied, "I wonder if it's going to be a boy or a girl. This child is truly a late arrival." After spending a tender moment together, Li Yunjiao focused on preparing for his breakthrough. Chapter 425, News from the Yu Family. Li Qinghong, having waited for some time at the northern peak of the Yuan family's mushroom forest plain, was met by their descendant. Intimidated by Li Qinghong's formidable presence, the young representative barely dared to speak and instead stayed in one corner like a timid quail. For Li Qinghong, delivering spirit stones to Yuan Haiyuan was just an ordinary trip. However, the mirror that was in her chest pocket stirred slightly. Lu Jiangxian extended his divine sense outward, covering the entire northern expanse of the mushroom forest plain. He scanned the area with his divine sense, revealing various immortal peaks. Most were occupied by minor embryonic breathing realm clans under the Yuan family's control. Although the family's main peak was away from here, Lu Jiangxian still managed to detect over 10 cultivation techniques. Secret notes: 1 set of alchemy and 1 set of forging, cultivation techniques, 7 embryonic breathing, 5 Qi cultivation and 2 foundation establishment realms. He murmured. The mushroom forest plain, a region controlled by major clans for centuries, had a more detailed categorization of cultivation methods compared to Moongaze Lake. While Moongaze Lake's methods were either for embryonic breathing or foundation establishment realms, mushroom forest plain included a division between Qi cultivation and foundation establishment realms. This division was believed to be a strategic measure employed by the Yuan family to maintain control over the minor clans under their. Lu Jiangxian set aside the embryonic breathing and Qi cultivation techniques for future study and began to examine the 2 foundation establishment realm techniques. A Grade 3 manual, Azure River Seeking Source technique, and a Grade 4 manual, Pheasant Flames Long March technique. The Azure River Seeking Source technique, which could form the Dao Foundation Grieving River Departure, was the Dao partner of Boundless Ocean. Practiced by both the Xiao and Yuan families, it was regarded as a decent and somewhat miraculous method of cultivation. Pheasant Flame's Long March technique was a Grade 4 Qi gathering method. Due to changes in the natural world, it had become obsolete. It appeared to be a remnant from a former immortal sect in the south that required the long-marking Pheasant Flame spiritual Qi. The Yuan family has quite a number of foundation establishment realm cultivators on their territory. All of them practice various techniques and utilize the unique aspects of their immortal foundations to develop numerous cultivation sites. From the various immortal peaks in their treasures, Lu Jiangxian acknowledged that these established clans with over 100 years of history possess considerable hidden treasures. In contrast, the Li family, still on the rise, had much to catch up on. As Lu Jiangxian scanned the immortal caves and fire veins on each immortal peak, he nodded in quiet approval. These established prestigious clans with over a century of history had indeed amassed considerable wealth and hidden treasures. In contrast, the Li family, which had only recently risen to prominence, still had much to do. Satisfied with his findings, Lu Jiangxian retracted his divine sense into the mirror. As Li Qinghong drew closer to the Li residence, his view of Moongaze Lake slowly grew clearer. It seems the devil cultivators are assaulting all of Moongaze Lake. The shores of Moongaze Lake were shrouded in a blood-red light, which also extended to the territories governed by the Foundation Establishment Realm cultivators of Mount Yue and Taoist He. Despite the ominous glow, these cultivators made no response, but continued their silent cultivation on the mountains. It appears that the Devil Plague is either linked to these Foundation Establishment Realm cultivators, or they have been warned. The Azure Pond sect must be planning something big with all these devil cultivators running amok in the region. Milan Prefecture was a fertile region with few mountains and forests, featuring only 8 or 9 small peaks. 5 among them had the strongest earth veins that had the richest spiritual energy. The mountains were peppered with many cave dwellings, and most visitors were young cultivators in the early stages of the embryonic breathing or chi cultivation realms. The usually bustling prefecture was now desolate. Mana light clashed with devil chi and blood chi in the sky, causing thunderous roars. Jade Smoke Mountain, the Dharma artifact, flew here and there, causing loud cries of pain in its wake. Although the Yu family had inherited the Jiang family's legacy, they lacked a competent cultivation technique. The Jiang family's ancestral secret techniques had long been lost, leaving only a collection of undecipherable jade slips. The Yu family must rely solely on their Dharma artifacts to fend off enemies. Yu Mugo, observing the dwindling number of his clansmen, assessed the situation. With only 6 devil cultivators left, he knew they would not be able to breach their family's grand formation. There's no need to waste any more time. Disengage and return to the formation, he commanded. Yu Mugo was now a late-stage chi cultivator and the strongest in his clan. Although he was not a particularly good fighter, having the Jade Smoke Mountain Dharma artifact in his possession significantly enhanced his combat capabilities. With loyal clan members and external cultivators he had personally trained, Yu Mugo faced the demon cultivators. They charged from all directions, exploiting the demons' weaknesses to defeat them one by one. Despite being at a disadvantage in terms of strength, they fought with fierce determination and resolve. Having expended 2 Foundation Establishment Realm talismans, Yu Mugo observed that most of the devil cultivators had begun to retreat with severe injuries. With the majority of cities and counties in Milan Prefecture saved, he deemed it unwise to continue fighting and decided to withdraw, heading toward the mountain. Just as he was about to land in the mountains, his path was blocked by the formation that had just been activated. His loyal clan members behind him began to panic as Yu Mugo froze in his spot. The formation plate at home has my seal. Why can't I enter the formation? His heart pounded with dread. Open the formation at once, he demanded urgently. Yu Mugo's children were among the cultivators guarding the mountain. His 7th and youngest son, Yu Chengyi, recognized his father's voice instantly. He jumped in surprise and was about to open the formation when he was halted. Several elders intervened, holding the formation plate. The family head's spiritual sense seal is on this plate. There's no reason why he can't open the formation. That must be a devil cultivator imposter, they said. Yu Chengyi had always been timid. He hesitated and was quickly overpowered by the authoritative words of his elders. Not only did he not open the formation, but he also did not dare snatch the formation plate from their hands. Outside, Yu Mugo's voice grew more urgent as he demanded, "Chengyi, open the formation right now." The voice was isolated outside the formation. Although Yu Mugo could not see the elders inside the formation, he immediately understood the situation. To think I'd actually perish at the hands of those juniors, he thought in anguish. Meanwhile, inside the formation, smoke billowed outside and the air was filled with the haunting echoes of miserable screams. The Yu family's cultivators inside the formation shivered as they watched the man standing at the edge of the formation. One of them asked nervously, "Master Lu, what should we do?" The guest cultivator observed the bloodshed outside with a smirk and reassured them with a smile, "No need to worry. The devil cultivators can't breach the formation. Just wait it out. The situation will resolve itself." The group huddled in the mountains and waited for several hours. Eventually, the black devil chi began to dissipate, and everything outside the formation soon became visible. One of the Yu family members came forward and said, "Master Lu, please go out and assess the situation." Master Lu nodded. He rode the wind and flew out of the formation to search among the fallen bodies on the ground for a while. Eventually, a big smile appeared on his face. He drew his sword and severed the head of a corpse on the ground, laughing as he made a loud proclamation. "Rejoice, elders, Yu Mugo is dead." He raised the severed head high above his head as if it were a trophy and declared, "The tyrannical lord is dead." The officials and nobles in the prefecture no longer need to live under his oppressive rule. Congratulations, elders. Yu Chengyi's face immediately paled as he slumped to the ground, finally realizing the severity of the situation. However, no one paid him any further attention. Amidst the mixed emotions of the crowd, someone called out, "Present the head quickly." Another voice shouted in excitement, "Where is the Jade Seal? Where is his Jade Smoke Mountain?" Jade Smoke Mountain was a Foundation Establishment Realm Dharma artifact that had gained sentience. Only members of the Yu family's direct lineage could wield it effectively. For anyone else, the Jade Seal would be as unyielding as a real mountain. Since these demon cultivators were only at the Chi cultivation realm, it was unlikely they could take it away. Chapter 426, News from the Yu family, II. Master Lu quickly returned with the severed head and handed it to that The Jade Smoke Mountain is too heavy for me to lift. It is still at the foot of the mountain, he informed. The elder examined the severed head closely. Yu Mugao, now over 80 years old, had graying hair and his cunning eyes were slightly open. His hair and beard was long, and his face was all bruised and bloodied from the devil cultivator's attacks. Those eyes locked onto the elder's greedy and gleeful gaze, causing the elder to gasp and throw Yu Mugao's head away, his face paling in shock. Another member of the group picked up the head, still unable to believe that Yu Mugao was truly dead. The elders exchanged uneasy glances, and one of them spoke with a tremble in his voice. Although this man was cruel and unkind, he wasn't much of a fighter. It was no surprise he got killed. Yes, but Yu Muxian is still in the sect. If he finds out that we have secretly erased the seal from the formation plate, Master Lu, what should we do now? It turned out that several of the elders were brothers of Yu Xiaogui. During his lifetime, Yu Xiaogui had feared that his eldest son, Yu Mugao, might slaughter the clan after his death, so he used various means to secretly protect them. Yu Mugao had been aware of this, but was concerned that any rash actions might expose news of Yu Xiaogui's death. He had planned to frame and eliminate them one by one. However, these elders were shrewd and had been feigning ignorance. Yu Mugao did not anticipate encountering devil cultivators, and everyone was rescued by guest cultivator Lu. His descendants, being too weak to make decisive moves, ended up getting him killed. Master Lu shook his head and replied, Yu Mugao died due to the devil plague. Yu Muxian won't investigate with a clarity talisman. As long as we hold our ground, we can manage this situation. The elder nodded silently, whispering, We'll put our trust in you, Master Lu. The guest cultivator nodded with a smile. The old man turned around and addressed the terrified crowd. With Yu Mugao dead, all his rules are nullified. We'll abolish his public fields, inspections, collective punishments, and commercial taxes. We'll restore the clan's tribute system, the clan slaves. All laws enacted by Yu Mugao will be revoked in favor of the ancient clan system. Instantly, the Yu family members erupted in joy and cheers. Yu Mugao's head, now fallen on the ground, lay in the rain, his beard and hair drenched and matted. The chorus of voices chanted, Remove the tyrants and restore the clan system. The face that had been drained white due to devil cultivation, qi turning dull, now lying alone under the rain, eerily resembled Jingaming's head that had been preserved with a spell for decades in the Yu family's vault. Li Yuanping sat at the high seat, now nearing 30 with gray sideburns that he no longer bothered to dye. People on Mount Dali usually got gray hair at 30 and passed away at 50. Therefore, Li Yuanping could now be referred to as an old master. The storage pouches left behind by the two devil cultivators were no ordinary items. Li Yuanping had them exchanged for 3 pouches suitable for the embryonic breathing realm cultivators, and with the remaining 20-plus spirit stones added to the family's vault, his mood had lightened considerably. The newly acquired storage pouches were given to the brothers from the N family and the orphan from the Tian family, as a gesture to win over their favor. He was currently preparing for the upcoming tribute submission. He had learned that eldest senior brother Yu Su from Yunwu Peak, notorious for his greed and audacity, would be collecting the tributes this time. As such, it was essential to prepare a bribe. While he listed down all the items that needed to be prepared, someone entered the hall and presented a letter. Family head, a report from our Yu family's spy. Li Yuanping skimmed through the letter. His eyes widened in disbelief as he read it again, more carefully this time. He then exclaimed, Yu Mugao is dead. Is this true? What kind of scheme is that person plotting now? He pondered for a moment, realizing that the current situation of the 3 families made it unlikely that the Yu family would fake a death. It would only cause unnecessary turmoil. The 3 families had an agreement before. The Li family moving north at this time would only provoke trouble. On the other hand, the Yu family, with its vast territory, had been plagued by even more devil cultivators. Yu Mugao's death seemed plausible under the circumstances. Send someone to investigate further, he instructed. Still feeling uneasy, Li Yuanping sent another person to confirm the news. After a moment, he put down his brush, a muffled laugh escaping his lips. He turned to those around him, joyfully announcing, With one less starving wolf at my side, I can finally sleep in peace. As he held the small letter, Li Yuanjiao descended into the front yard. He had been accumulating progress all this while and spent only several days breaking through to the 8th heavenly layer of the Qi cultivation realm. Li Yuanping rose from his seat and greeted him with a smile. Big brother, take a look at this, he exclaimed gleefully. Li Yuanjiao nodded and read the letter carefully. He exhaled deeply, both relieved and satisfied. I guess he was fortunate to die an easy death, he commented. Li Yuanjiao and his siblings still harbored resentment toward the Yu family due to Li Yuanxiu's death. They had always wished so badly to end that cunning pair of father and son from the Yu family. Yu Xiaogui had been slain by Li Tongya, who passed away shortly after that. Now that Yu Mugao had been killed in the devil plague, they could finally have peace of mind. Li Yuanping raised his head and murmured, Considering all the enemies of my family, Even though Yu Mugao might not compare to the likes of Giant Ixi, he was still a formidable figure. Now that he is dead, his lifelong good governance and clan system has been in vain. The Yu family can no longer compete with my family for supremacy. This is a blessing for my Li family. Li Yunjiao chuckled in response. The Yu family spent a century usurping Jiang's territory. I still remember when they hosted a banquet and invited all the families to impose tributes on them. It has only been 80 years since then, and now their influence has crumbled. Even the last beam of their roof has been broken. Don't forget about Yu Mujian. We still haven't heard any news about him, so it's unclear whether he's alive or dead, Li Yuanping reminded him. As the two brothers enjoyed their conversation, Du Yi approached and reported, family head. With Yu Mugao dead, their elder Yu Xiaomian is supporting Yu Chengyi, the seventh heir, as their new leader. Meanwhile, the other peaks, controlled by Yu Mugao's other descendants, have split into 4 factions. The situation is currently at a standstill. Li Yuanping considered this information thoughtfully, but could only say, it's a pity that Yu Muxian's oath prevents us from intervening in the Yu family's affairs or entering their territory. Otherwise, we could take advantage of this situation to expand north and annex half of the Yu family's land. We might not be able to annex it directly, but we could certainly do something about it, Li Yunjiao suggested. Li Yuanping then took the letter presented by Du Yi and said, all 4 regions around the lake have been struck by the devil plague, and the Fei family has activated their cloud-gathering southern heaven formation. Without any foundation establishment realm cultivators among the devil cultivators, they were unable to breach it and quickly withdrew. As the two brothers were deep in discussion, a commotion erupted in the front hall. 2 young embryonic breathing realm cultivators hurried in with tears staining their cheeks. They rushed forward and fell to their knees as they cried out, please, save our families. These cultivators were from the Rui and Pu families on the eastern shore, both of which paid tribute to the Li family. They had come to the Li family to cultivate spirit fields and were now pleading desperately. Family head, the families on the eastern shore are in utter chaos. Many devil cultivators of the Qi cultivation and embryonic breathing realms are running amok there. We've exhausted all our means of seeking help. Please, we beg the main family to save our families. Li Yuanping and Li Yunjiao exchanged a glance, their faces lighting up with sudden delight. Their eyes were drawn to the densely packed families on the map. Families on the eastern shore. These Qi cultivation and embryonic breathing realm devil cultivators are easy prey. We could use this opportunity to gather several embryonic breathing realm families and increase the tribute we receive. It's a perfect chance to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Chapter 427, Advancing to the Eastern Shore I. Written on the 28th day in the 12th lunar month, it's snowing heavily at the lake. Enclosed with this letter are 122 spirit stones. Everything is well at home. Your great-granduncle Tian has fallen, slain by a devil cultivator. In light of this, you are required to dress in mourning garb and abstain from alcohol for 3 months. Study hard in the sect. Focus intently on mastering immortal recipes, engaging in profound discussions, and perfecting the art of cinnabar creation. Should you find yourself in need of additional resources, do not hesitate to write home. From Father Jiao. Li Zijai looked at the small pile of spirit stones stacked on the desk before him. He remained silent, reading the letter in his hands over and over again. After poring over it more than 10 times, he held the paper tightly, lost in his thoughts. Li Yunjia was never good with words. Even his writing was stiff and concise, devoid of emotion. It was almost as if he was unwilling to spare an extra word for his son. Li Zijai pursed his lips tightly as he read the letter repeatedly, blinking back his tears. If the delivery of this letter had not been delayed by the Yuan family, his family actually took less than a month to collect 120 spirit stones. Li Zijai dared not wonder how they managed to even achieve this feat. He carefully hid the letter in his pocket and then stepped out of the courtyard to find Yuan Tuan. Master, Zijai is ready to buy the dawn-colored qi, he informed. How much more do you need? Yuan Tuan asked softly, cradling a tabby cat in her arms. I have all 120 spirit stones, he replied. Upon hearing this, Yuan Tuan raised an eyebrow and remarked, Li Yunjio is really a problem solver. I didn't expect him to be able to scrape together all 120 spirit stones. Your family has only risen to prominence not long ago. This must have been quite a challenge for them. Her calm voice took on a somewhat mournful tone as she murmured, if only my family had remained as united and harmonious 60 years ago. Perhaps I wouldn't feel so aggrieved. Taking the spirit stones from Li Zijai, Yuan Tuan rode the wind away without further delay. An hour later, she returned to the peak with a frosty demeanor, holding a small jade vial in her hand. Here's the dawn-colored qi. I spent a long time searching in Ziki Peak's vault. This bottle is the purest, extracted over 18 years ago through the proper qi gathering method. You can tell by its red and gold hues. Her aura undulated and she had a faint green light flowing around her, probably from a recent conflict with another cultivator on Ziki Peak. Her expression remained frosty as she continued, "The people on Ziki Peak are becoming more presumptuous. I have already tolerated their steep demand of 120 spirit stones, yet they dared to try and deceive me. They mistake my kindness within the sect for weakness, thinking I can be easily bullied." Li Zijai noted her distinctly icy demeanor, and with a respectful bow, he first expressed his gratitude before responding. "Ziki Peak is among the direct lineages. It was only natural for them to make things hard for us. To think that they dare to treat Master this way when you hail from a prestigious clan from the Mushroom Forest Plain. If I were to handle this alone, I doubt I'd even make it up the Ziki Peak." Yuan Tuan nodded thoughtfully then, as if struck by a sudden thought. She smiled gently and asked, "Zijai, you're 17 this year, aren't you? Yet you haven't found yourself a wife and started your family. It's unwise to delay such matters for too long. Have you taken a liking to any girl from the peaks? If so, I'll approach her on your behalf." The abrupt change in topic took Li Zijai by surprise, momentarily freezing him to the spot. Before he could articulate his objections, however, realization dawned upon him. "I am my father's only son, and Azure Pond is a perilous place. Should anything befall me, would it not leave my father without an heir? It seems selfish of me to reject this suggestion." With this thought in mind, he could only reply somewhat glumly, "I'll leave it to you, master." Yuan Tuan nodded as if she had already anticipated this response, then said warmly, "Matching you with a member of the Qi Cultivation Realm family could indeed be tricky, especially given your family's recent mourning. Engaging with an unknown clan brings uncertainty about their intentions. Perhaps I should approach the Yang family at Imperial Cloud Peak on your behalf." This suggestion was unexpected, as Li Zijai was expecting her to suggest someone from the Yuan family. Nevertheless, he bowed his head in silent agreement. Yuan Tuan continued, "In the past, the King of Yue formed marriage ties with many clans, and although the old system has dissolved, transforming Azure Pond into its current form, political marriages still occur occasionally, following old precedents. Thank you for your consideration, Master," Li Zijai said respectfully, while Yuan Tuan chuckled. Back in the day, Yang Tianya used that jade seal to muster his forces through Lixia Road and quell uprisings on my Mushroom Forest Plain. The Yuan family has maintained ties with the Yang family since then, so arranging this should be easy. The families on the eastern shore were diverse, comprising dozens of small families. Some were bound to the sect through deep-seated alliances or marital bonds, while others were vassals of the Xiao family in their ore mining ventures. These families regularly paid tributes to the neighboring clans. However, the situation shifted when the marketplace on Cloud Crown Peak was destroyed, leading to a decline in the Xiao family's influence in the west. Following the downfall of the Yu family, these eastern shore families finally found themselves able to lead somewhat easier lives. However, the arrival of the Devil Plague shattered their newfound tranquility abruptly, thrusting all the families on the eastern shore back into a nightmarish reality. Clouds of malevolent qi billowed across the land as blood flowed freely in the streets, as well as being accompanied by cries and howls of despair. In the Rui residence, Li Qinghang's jade armor glinted and glowed warmly. Her spear discharged dazzling purple electricity, striking down a fleeing devil cultivator at the second stage of the embryonic breathing realm. Her weapon moved like a dragon, piercing through her foe effortlessly. The purple lightning obliterated the devil cultivator swiftly, and with a smooth movement of her spear, Li Qinghang plucked a storage pouch from the gory remnants. With a graceful flick, the pouch fell into her waiting hand. Turning, Li Qinghang saw her elder brother, Li Yunjiao, grinning widely. However, Li Xuanxuan stared at the corpse with a pained look on his face as he lamented, "That devil cultivator wore robes made of purple cloud brocade. Qinghang's electricity has ruined it completely and we can't use it anymore." Li Qinghang lowered her weapon and suppressed a giggle as she said, all right, it's my fault." Li Yunjia waved off Rui Qianquo, the head of the Rui family, who was bursting with gratitude and urged his group onward. The external cultivators were not only weak, but also required Li Yunjiao to share any spoils with them and provide compensation for casualties. Hence, Li Yunjiao chose to bring only his own family members into battle himself. At the 8th heavenly layer of Qi Cultivation Realm, Li Qinghang and Li Xuanxuan, both at the 7th heavenly layer, and the old monkey wielding a jade mortar and pestle at the 5th heavenly layer. Together, they swept through the region, clearing it of the devil cultivators. The devil cultivators they faced were not particularly strong, yet Li Yunjiao remained cautious and maintained tight control over his group to prevent ambushes, opting for thoroughness over efficiency. However, as they ventured deeper, they encountered increasingly formidable devil cultivators. Among these foes were local cultivators who had turned, now practicing the Blood Dharma manual. While these enemies were not overwhelmingly strong, their expertise in evasion proved troublesome, significantly slowing the Li family's progress through the area. Chapter 428, Advancing to the Eastern Shore, II. Clutching 8 or 9 storage pouches in his chest pocket, Li Yunjiao murmured, "We've slain many embryonic breathing realm cultivators so far. If we continue at this rate, I fear the more powerful devil cultivators will have escaped." He discreetly consulted his mirror, scanning the blood-soaked landscape with its help, and immediately glimpsed blood and fires in his vision. To the southeast, "Let's catch the big fish first," he commanded decisively in a grim tone. As they flew onward, accompanied by the monkey, they soon spotted 3 chi cultivators hovering in the sky. They were manipulating a spell that glowed crimson. On the ground, they saw a large formation drawn with blood, linking it to those 3 chi cultivators above. Li Xuanxuan glanced behind him. The distant smoke from the towns along Gili Road was still visible, so they would not miss any signal for help from their family. Li Yunjiao murmured, 2 at the middle stage of chi cultivation realm and 1 at the late stage. Devil cultivators varied greatly. Those who wielded white chi were notably more formidable. Observing that these 3 were merely shrouded in a faint blood light, Li Yunjiao nodded firmly to his group. Li Qinghong caught on immediately, her fine eyebrows arching as she clasped her hands together and conjured a dense purple glow between her palms, the purple talisman origin light secret technique. The devil cultivators, engrossed in completing their formation, were caught off guard by the direct assault. Scrambling, they raised their Dharma artifacts in clumsy defense. With a wave of her slender hand, Li Qinghong sent a lightning-charged talisman hurtling right toward them. If only we were closer, the ambush would have been more devastating. Due to their heightened spiritual senses, the chi cultivators rarely fell prey to sneak attacks unless their enemies employed a unique Dharma artifact that could conceal their presence. Li Qinghong closed the gap swiftly, further reducing the time for her enemies to react. She smashed a thunder talisman into the face of the weakest cultivator. Boom! The impact sent the mid-stage chi cultivator flying backward and spitting a mouthful of blood, his Dharma artifact scorched. Seizing the momentum, Li Qinghong followed up with a spear attack. The other members of the Li family swiftly engaged and tackled the remaining 2 enemies. The attack took a very noticeable toll on the devil cultivator. Fortunately, his rich experience in combat allowed him to diffuse most of the talisman's power with his Dharma artifact, avoiding serious injury. His gaze turned vicious as he cursed at Li Qinghong. "Such resilience," Li Yunjiao exclaimed, slashing his longsword across his opponent's chest, leaving a bloodied scar. Yet he noticed that the 3 chi devil cultivators seemed unnervingly composed and were even smirking confidently. A bad feeling rose in Li Yunjiao's heart as he urged the others, "Let's finish this quickly." Mana surged within him as he twirled his gleaming sword, engaging another mid-stage chi cultivator in battle. Leveraging his powerful River 1 chi technique, he attempted to tackle 2 enemies simultaneously. Li Xuanxuan, catching on to his intentions, coordinated with the old monkey and Li Qinghong to converge on the wounded devil cultivator. The late-stage chi devil cultivator in black robes sneered, rebuking sharply, "How bold! Are you seriously treating us like mere rogue cultivators from some lowly families?" The Dharma artifact in his hand came whistling through the air while the other hand performed a spell that cast a chilling blood light. As he aimed to strike Li Yunjiao, the gray-robed devil cultivator at the middle stage of the chi cultivation realm seized the opportunity and closed in to attack Li Yunjiao as well. Li Yunjiao swiftly clapped his storage pouch, conjuring a large, earth-colored oval shield. The 6 overlapping barriers glowed with mana light, blocking the incoming attacks and unleashing a burst of white light against the crimson light. As the 6-stone cloud plate, a mid-grade Dharma artifact, flared to life, the mana within Li Yunjiao surged like a tidal wave, defending him against the assault from his attackers. "Ah, so you have a Dharma artifact to rely on." The mid-stage chi devil cultivator sneered, performing hand seals with his hands before breathing golden flames that slammed ruthlessly against the 6-stone cloud plate. With his mana reserve quickly depleting, Li Yunjiao was forced to retract his Dharma artifact. He drew back and unsheathed his sword, leaping into the air and executing a celestial moon slash, forcing the 2 attackers back momentarily. A fleeting touch of red light from earlier left the tip of his nose chilly. The devil cultivator was in a worse state. His body was engulfed in black smoke with wounds marring his body, and panic took over as he shouted, "Our reinforcements are coming. You should run while you still can." The other 2 cultivators merely threw a few vicious glares at him but said nothing. Devil cultivators were selfish. Both of them were only thinking about stalling the Li family without any concern for their allies' fate. Cornered by Li Qinghong, who had thwarted all his attempts to escape, the wounded devil cultivator could not think of anything else other than trying to convince his enemies to leave. "It is my possessions that you all covet, right? Killing me serves no purpose. You guys won't survive once our reinforcements are here. Spare my life, and I assure you, you will receive what you desire," he yelled out in desperation. He swiftly grabbed the storage pouch at his waist while enduring the barrage of assaults from his attackers. As blood spilled from his lips, he mustered the strength for one last spell. The storage bag shot away like a meteor as he descended to the ground. Having borne the brunt of multiple spells, a trail of blood leaked out from the corner of Li Yunjiao's mouth. "Let's go." Li Qingheng snagged the pouch with her electricity, then deactivated the spell that drained her mana. Her face paled, but she managed to still summon a wisp of purple lightning to employ her secret technique. Trying to escape, the late-stage Chi Devil cultivator in black growled, swinging his Dharma artifact fiercely at Li Yunjiao's retreating figure. "Fool, don't chase him." The wounded devil cultivator, who relinquished his storage pouch, cried out as his comrades surged forward. The black-robed cultivator was momentarily taken aback. Li Yunjiao sheathed his sword and extended his spiritual sense into the mirror. The devil cultivator, feeling a sudden chill down his spine, found his hairs standing on end. In a desperate bid to escape, he performed a secret technique, causing his form to blur like flowing blood. With a violent push of energy, he managed to swiftly retreat several feet away. Refraining from using the Supreme Yin Profound Light publicly, Li Yunjiao simply intimidated the devil cultivator before seizing the opening to fly away in another direction. The anger in the devil cultivator's eyes had completely dissipated, now replaced by a deep-seated terror. As the gray-robed mid-stage Chi Devil cultivator tried to give chase, Li Qingheng's Thunder Talisman struck him hard. The Devil cultivator was forced to deploy his Dharma artifact in defense, barely managing to shield himself as he watched his targets disappear into the smoke and dust. Employing his secret technique to flee had severely depleted the mana reserves of the late-stage Chi Devil cultivator, leaving him visibly pale. He hovered in midair, momentarily dazed. From below, the devil cultivator who had lost his storage pouch rose into the air with a chilling laugh. "The two of you should be grateful that I saved your lives just now." The mid-stage Chi Devil cultivator in gray shot him a cold look. The leader of their group, who was dressed in black, looked relieved. "Fellow Taoist, given your experience in the sect, you must be quite knowledgeable. What insights can you offer?" he asked humbly. Despite losing his storage pouch, the other cultivator replied with a grateful tone, "I've reviewed our sect's catalog before. That man in black wields the Qingche sword, there's no doubt about it. That's the weapon of a sword immortal. Imagine the power of the sword Qi hidden within it. None of us, not even our Lord, could withstand that sword Qi without spending 7 to 8 years to recover from the injury. The sword's intent is no laughing matter," he added solemnly. The black-robed cultivator sighed deeply, his previous fear now explained. The gray-robed cultivator, though secretly relieved, remained outwardly stubborn. "You may have a profound origin, but it changes nothing. You're just another wanderer like us now. If you want to brag about your achievements, you should have stayed in the sect and strove to achieve the Foundation establishment realm instead of turning to devil cultivation." He snarled coldly. The black-robed cultivator waved his sleeves and quickly intervened. "That's enough. Let's wait for our Lord to come and collect all the blood Qi from Moongaze Lake. We'll leave quickly after that and head to the Golden Feather sect." Moongaze Lake was shrouded in mystery. Aside from the Sword Immortal clan, there was also talk of a Foundation Establishment Realm cultivator concealed on the opposite shore. There were also rumors about another Foundation Establishment Realm cultivator surnamed Jiang hidden among the families in this region. What a dreadful place. Chapter 429, Slaughter Jung Kui Light I. The members of the Li family swiftly departed on the wind. Li Yunjiao's face was slightly pale, but after consuming a cold-dispelling antidote and a pill to replenish his true essence, his complexion improved significantly. Beside him, Li Qingheng, who had also exerted considerable energy, took the same pill and regulated her breathing. Despite his slight injuries, Li Yunjiao maintained a smile on his face. The storage pouch in his hand glowed with runes, suggesting that it was no ordinary item. He chuckled and said, "That devil cultivator seems different from the other minor devil cultivators we usually encounter. He's likely one of the core figures like Zhang Huid and Qiu Jai. I expect we'll find something of value in this pouch." However, Li Yunjiao did not open the storage pouch but instead played with it in his hand. Li Xuanxuan looked at him in concern and asked, "Jiaor, how are your injuries?" "It's nothing serious. I'll get Gilwen to help me recover for a couple of days, and then I'll spend the next few months stabilizing my cultivation. After that, I should be able to break through to the 9th heavenly layer," he replied, hinting that he would be using a talisman pill. Since the old monkey flying behind them, Li Yunjiao did not want to talk about the talisman pill openly. The four of them flew on for a while until Li Yunjiao suddenly halted and whispered, "Found it." Below them, a minor embryonic breathing realm family was being ruthlessly attacked by a devil cultivator. Li Yunjiao descended, drawing his sword to strike. Soon, he returned with a captured embryonic breathing realm devil cultivator, whose limbs had been cleanly severed. The devil cultivator's eyes widened in fear as he pleaded for mercy. Li Yunjiao stared at him emotionlessly, then threw the limbless devil cultivator onto the ground before tossing the devil chi cultivator's storage pouch on him. "Open it with your spiritual sense," he ordered. The embryonic breathing realm devil cultivator complied instantly, and the pouch's contents spilled out. There were no visible traps or seals. Li Yuanjiao, not interested in finding out whether the devil cultivator had been marked for revenge, ignored his pleas for mercy. With a swift motion, he crushed the devil cultivator's skull under his foot and incinerated the remains with a fire spell, then picked up the storage pouch and its contents. All of this happened in a matter of breaths. Meanwhile, Li Qinghong, who was meditating with her spear in hand, remained detached and seemingly unaffected by the scene. Li Xuanxun, however, frowned and interjected. A single slash would have sufficed. There was no need to sever his limbs and make such a bloody mess. "It's better this way. At least there's no need to worry about him using any talismans," Li Yuanjiao replied with a laugh. With that, they soared into the air. Li Yuanjiao examined the contents of the storage pouch as they flew, and in no time, they had arrived at the border of the Yu family's territory. Yu family's Milan prefecture was engulfed in smoke and fire. Spells and streams of mana light clashed in the air, leaving marks of battle and ruin on the ground. Li Xuanxun paused to observe for a moment and then remarked softly, "There are only 4 generations from Yu Yufeng to Yu Chengyi. To think that the situation of their family has deteriorated so much that recovery seems impossible." Li Qinghong, who was holding her spear and watching the bright flames engulf the prefecture, commented, "When clans are founded, their ancestors are either exceptionally gifted and cunning, generous and resourceful, or cautious and ruthless. The first generation built their foundations, and the second maintained them but were less successful than their predecessors. The descendants indulge in comfort and focus solely on cultivation, detached from the hardships of the world. They attain the foundation establishment realm and suppress the other clans, or they risk planting the seeds of future troubles if they don't." Li Yuanjiao rested his hand on the sword at his waist and murmured, "From our family's high ancestor, Li Mushan, we have seen 4 generations. The current generation of Zion Yue is the 5th. He turned and asked suddenly, "Is there any descendant comparable to the high ancestor?" Li Qinghong, caught off guard by his serious tone, quickly laughed and said, "Each generation faces its own circumstances. There's no need to compare, big brother." Letter 1E59 A ring, letter 1D40D, letter 1ED5, letter 1D51F, Iagonek, letter 1D42C. Li Xuanxun listened silently to the discussion between Li Yuanjiao and Li Qinghong without saying a word. Upon returning to Lijiang Town, he ascended the peak to draw talismans, while Li Yuanjiao and Li Qinghong landed in the central hall to divide the spoils with Li Yuanping. There were 10 spirit pouches of the embryonic breathing realm. After filling the vault with Dharma artifacts and spirit items, the remaining 40 spirit stones were added to the clan account. This replenished the gap left by the spirit stones for Li Qingxiao's lineage from Mount Yu. When they poured out the savings from the Qi Devil cultivator, there were 20 spirit stones, not accounting for the rest. Li Yuanjiao handed them over to Yuanping, only to see him frown and say, "You should keep some for yourselves too, big brother and big sister. If you give everything to the clan, you too won't have anything left for your own cultivation. Big brother is on the verge of reaching the foundation establishment realm. You should think more about yourself." The siblings exchanged glances with each other briefly, then decided to split the spirit stones among themselves. They also took a few bottles of useful pills for themselves. Li Yuanjiao sifted through the remaining devil techniques for a while before his eyes finally lit up. "There's a grade 4 technique," he exclaimed in delight. Most of the widely circulated manuals in the Wu and Yue states were of grade 1 and 2. Grade 3 and grade 4 techniques and spells were generally kept secret by clans, while those beyond that grade were monopolized by the immortal sects. Upon hearing this, everyone gathered around him eagerly. Li Yuanjiao read the manual carefully before remarking, "How rare. This is a grade 4 spell from the Slaughter Jun Gate, a minor sect in the Wu state. It's known as the Slaughter Jun Kui Light, requiring different types of cold qi or cold water in its practice. To learn this spell, 9 different cold qi or 3 types of cold water are needed. To master it, one would need 9 different cold qi and 9 types of cold water to make 81 variations. Typically, these cold qi and water are to be absorbed into the left index finger. On the battlefield, a hand seal can be performed to unleash the Slaughter Jun Kui Light. This can obstruct an enemy's mana circulation. Once mastered, it could freeze even qi cultivators," he continued explaining. Once Li Yuanjiao finished his explanation, Li Qinghong took the manual and examined it. With a regretful sigh, she said, "I can't use this. Thunder is associated with fire, and this spell relies on the cold. It's unsuitable for me, especially since the cold must be absorbed into the index finger." Li Yuanjiao nodded. His family practiced the River 1 Qi technique and Cold Pine Dew Snow technique manual, both of which were compatible with this spell. The Cold Pine Snow Qi, gathered by the Cold Pine Dew Snow technique manual, could even be used to cultivate this spell. The Earth Fiend's cold spring spirit water at home could also be used. Slaughter Jun Gate. Li Yunjiao repeated the name, feeling a sense of familiarity with it. I think that old monkey used to train in this sect. The White Monkey's travel notes describe the cultivation techniques of this sect as gloomy and cold. The ancestors of the sect were wealthy and possessed several secret techniques. This gate was later destroyed by the devil cultivators, which is why this manual has ended up in our hands. The spell required numerous types of cold qi and cold water, with 9 varieties needed just to begin. Given the difficulty of starting the cultivation itself, Li Yunjiao decided to set it aside for now. He planned to gather cold qi from other families before attempting to cultivate it. Chapter 430, Slaughter Jun Kui Light II. Li Yunjiao spent half a year in seclusion to stabilize his cultivation. With the aid of a talisman pill, he successfully broke through to the 9th layer of the qi cultivation realm and could finally see the hope of reaching the foundation establishment realm. Now that he had emerged from seclusion, he inquired about the situation at home and found that most of the clan's cultivators had also retreated into seclusion. The situation with the Devil Plague clan had eased, and many overdue clan wages were settled. Some had made progress in their cultivation, while others had saved enough to purchase pills to aid in their breakthroughs. Li Qinghong had improved significantly after a period of combating the Devil Plague. However, she was still accumulating her cultivation in the late stage of the qi cultivation realm and had yet to break through to the 8th heavenly layer. As soon as Li Yunjiao left his seclusion, he received a letter from Smoke Valley Temple. Chen Dong had finally managed to gather a portion of Golden Yang Radiant Origin spiritual qi, which brought Li Yunjiao great joy. He requested Li Qinghong to oversee the family and set off westward personally. However, upon crossing Mount Ziping and arriving at Smoke Valley Temple, Li Yunjiao's joy quickly turned to dismay. The ancient city wall, which had once stretched for thousands of li, had collapsed in several places, leaving it fractured into 3 or 4 sections. The remaining portions of the wall were now mottled and cracked. Chen Dong flew toward him and greeted him. His face was still pale, and he seemed to have gained fresh wounds before his old wounds had even fully recovered. Li Yunjiao pointed at the damaged wall and frowned in silence. Chen Dong quickly explained, it was the work of those devil cultivators. Many frequently crossed the border this year. While most were just passing by, some grew greedy and besieged Smoke Valley Temple. During the battles, the ancient city wall was repeatedly impacted, leading to its current state. Chen Dong sighed and continued with a tinge of sadness evident in his voice. This was also why the progress of gathering the Golden Yang Radiant Origin Spirit Qi had been delayed by half a year. The wall, which used to be able to support 3 people for qi harvesting, can now accommodate only 2. Li Yunjiao felt a headache coming. Repairing the wall would not resolve the issue. The Golden Yang Radiant Origin required the presence of an ancient pass. Further repairs might just jeopardize this qi gathering location. Should I send people to protect this place? Li Yunjiao was aware that there were only very few people in the main family who could fight. Sending more people to protect this place would only further delay their cultivation and expose them to danger. This place is too dilapidated. The qi gathering efficiency is very low. We may need to send someone to search for another suitable site, Li Yunjiao concluded, taking the jade box from Chen Dong. He opened it gently, revealing the flowing red and golden light within, and nodded in pleased approval. He then asked, does Auntie know about Granduncle's situation? He's her uncle. Perhaps both of you should take a trip back to the clan to pay your respects. Chen Dong understood Li Yunjiao's intention. Taking a trip back to the clan implied that they still had to return here and continue gathering the Golden Yang Radiant Origin Spirit Qi. Despite this, Chen Dong replied, I'll have to trouble you to escort her back to the clan to pay her respects. It's becoming increasingly difficult to gather qi here. I'd better seize the opportunity to gather more, so I won't be returning with her. Li Yunjiao nodded in agreement, then sent someone to fetch Li Jingshan. Shortly afterward, the messenger returned to him and informed him that Li Jingshan refused to return home. She would, however, offer distant respects and put on a mourning garb as a gesture of courtesy. Chen Dong sighed softly, then bowed slightly to Li Yunjiao in apology. Li Yunjiao understood the gesture and left behind several medicine pills and resources before riding the wind and departing into the smoky sunset, vanishing into the yellow haze alone. As Li Yunjiao disappeared from view, Chen Dong straightened up. He took a seat and leaned against the city wall, staring at the slowly setting sun. He suddenly felt a pang of loneliness. At 60 years old, with Tian Yaodao gone, he had one person less to reminisce about the past with. The sunset is blood red, the earth veins are stirring. It seems the fire veins have erupted again, he mumbled quietly to himself. There were many fire veins in this desert, making it an inhospitable place for mortals. Li Jingshan's health had been declining and she had grown stubborn. When she was younger, she never left Li Yunjiao in such a difficult position. Xior, I wonder how she's doing these days. Chen Dong, who practiced the River One Qi technique, should ideally remain near water or the lake. Due to years in the desert, his cultivation had stagnated. He did not seem to mind, though. Sitting silently on the gray-white city wall, he hummed a few lines of songs from his hometown. Letter 1D667, letter 1D63C, letter FF4 Israelika. Li Yunjiao returned home in a gloomy state and sat on a rock for 2 hours, gradually regaining his composure. Just as his mood began to lift, he received word that Li Zijin had arrived. Have him come up, Li Yunjiao instructed. After a brief wait, Li Zijin appeared in a brocade robe. The Dharma artifact, glazed dusk, had been carefully embedded into a jade ring that hung from his waist, swaying with his every movement like a beautiful pendant. Greetings, second uncle, Li Zijin greeted, cupping his fists in a respectful yet relaxed manner. Li Yunjiao assessed him with his spiritual sense and noted, I see you've condensed the Jade Capital Chakra and reached the 5th stage of the embryonic breathing realm. Jade Capital Wheel. You've certainly worked. At 16 years old, Li Zijin was at the height of his potential. His talent, while impressive, was slightly inferior to that of Li Ziming, who was also nearing the Jade Capital stage at the Xiao residence. Li Zijin responded humbly to his second uncle's praise. Li Yunjiao, knowing he had come to request a talisman pill, retrieved a jade bottle from his storage pouch and handed it over. Li Zijin and Li Ziming would reach the peak of the embryonic breathing realm after taking this talisman pill. However, there was only a portion of Golden Yang Radiant Origin Qi available. After carefully choosing his words, Li Yunjiao said warmly, Junner, we only have a portion of Golden Yang Radiant Origin Qi at home. Given the issues with the Qi source in the desert, it may be over 10 years before we can acquire another portion. Li Zijin nodded, mildly surprised to find himself in a similar situation that his elder brother, Li Zicheng, had previously faced. However, his personality was completely different from Li Zicheng. He merely responded respectfully, saying, Zijin will obey the elder's commands. He did not give Li Yunjiao an easy way out, so Li Yunjiao fell silent. Li Zijin lowered his gaze and waited for 2 breaths until he could no longer bear watching the guilt on his elder's face. He smiled and continued, Zijin is rather fond of the cold pine dew snow technique. It's cold and ethereal, suitable for swordsmanship. That Golden Palace Radiant Origin manual sounds like an overblown show of wealth and lacks appeal. Li Zijin's attempt at joking did little to lift Li Yunjiao's spirits. The Cold Pine Dew Snow Technique manual was only a grade 3 cultivation technique, while the Golden Palace Radiant Origin manual was a rare grade 4 ancient technique. Consuming the Golden Yang Radiant Origin Qi would determine one's path for the next century. This was a serious matter that impacted the lives of all the precious descendants of the Li family, not a joke that one could simply laugh and forget about. Li Yunjiao was overwhelmed by emotions and frustrations, yet found himself unable to articulate them. In the end, all he could do was sigh. Once you stabilize your cultivation after the breakthrough, you can retrieve the cold pine snow qi from the foot of the mountain and prepare for the next step, he said. He then retrieved the Slaughter Jun Kui Light manual and handed it over to Li Zijin apologetically. In an unusually gentle tone, he said, This is the latest grade 4 spell our family has acquired. Study it carefully first before you begin practicing it slowly. Return to me when you're able to absorb cold qi and cold water. Unlike the cold pine snow qi, the bottle of Earth Fiend's cold spring at home was a limited resource. Initially, Li Yunjiao was hesitant to use this spell. However, after carefully reviewing the manual and discovering that only a small amount of spirit water was required, he decided to provide it. Thank you, second uncle. Li Zijin nodded calmly, then accepted the manual and carefully read its contents. After swearing the profound scenery spiritual oath, he cupped his fist and took his leave. After he departed, a thought struck Li Yunjiao. He wrote a letter which he handed to a subordinate and instructed, Go to Xianyu Peak and find out Ziming's cultivation progress. See if he has broken through to the Jade Capital stage, then return quickly. Wait. He retracted the letter and added something to it, then said, Have him request to come home. I'll fetch him myself. Chapter 431, Stripped of Clothes and Crown I. A stream of light emerged from Xianyu Peak and streaked across the sky. After bidding farewell to the Xiao family, Li Yunjiao took Li Ziming home. The youth stood with hands clasped behind him. Clad in a Taoist robe and a medicine pouch at his waist, he gazed down at the mountains below. In front of him, Li Yunjiao, dressed in his usual black robe, steered through the wind. Only a portion of the Golden Yang Radiant Origin Qi has been gathered. Zijin has decided to take the Cold Pine Snow Qi instead, he said in a solemn voice. I see. I'm sorry that he has to go through that. Li Ziming's robes fluttered in the wind as he nodded, his fingers caressing the jade beads, azure manifestation around his wrist. The corners of his mouth drooped, hiding a myriad of unspoken thoughts, yet he maintained a stoic expression. Li Yunjiao was a perceptive person. As he read Li Ziming's expression, Discomfort flickered through him as he could not tell what was going through the younger man's mind. They flew in silence until Mount Lijing loomed below. Despite being away for several years, Li Ziming still found the mountain familiar. Upon entering the cave dwelling, Li Yunjiao handed him the jade box containing the Golden Yang Radiant Origin Qi and a talisman pill. "You can get the Golden Palace Radiant Origin Manual from your father," he said. Li Ziming nodded and respectfully replied, "Ziming won't let everyone down." As Li Ziming slowly withdrew, Li Yunjiao remained seated in a daze, his brows knitting tightly together. After a long while, his expression finally softened as he exhaled. "You've certainly grown up, so grown up that you hide even your mind from your family. If I can't read your thoughts, how can I entrust the Li family to you?" he muttered with some sadness in his voice. "When they were all but children, I've always thought that Ziming was the affectionate one, while Zijin was the cold one. Now that they've grown up, they both seem impassive, though Zijin shows at least a touch of human emotion." Li Yunjiao had discussed the children from the generation of Zai and Yue with Li Yuanping on multiple occasions. Li Zijin had the best character, and though Li Ziming was capable, he often appeared overly rigid, lacking any notable qualities and occasionally appearing distant. If Li Ziming had not been the most gifted, blessed with innate talents in alchemy and born of Chenghu's lineage, they might well have chosen to entrust the Li family to Li Zijin instead. Yet, seeing the brothers' harmonious relationship, they ultimately decided on Li Ziming since he was a gentle and reasonable child. Now observing his demeanor after years away, seeming distant even from his own kin, Li Yunjiao unfastened his black robe, feeling a weary resignation as he approached the small well in the cave dwelling. The water shimmered, showing the reflection of fierce eyes that seemed like it was about to pick a victim to be devoured, under eyebrows that were too close to each other. Li Yunjiao squinted as he stared at himself in the water for a while. "When I was little, I was father's least favorite child. I guess he must have been frightened by my appearance." He eventually looked away, settled down cross-legged, and began to cultivate in solitude. Li Ziming descended the mountain and walked in silence. The spiritual qi of Mount Lijing paled in comparison to that of Xianyu Peak. Reflecting on his age, he realized he was already 16. Letter 1E5D. I'm at the 5th stage of the embryonic breathing realm. After taking the talisman pill, I'll reach the 6th stage. It'll take another 2 or 3 years to break through, so I should be reaching the qi cultivation realm by 18. Zhao Yuanci had reached the qi cultivation realm at 20, yet it took him nearly 40 more years to break through to the next realm, at the age of 60. Li Ziming understood the delay all too well. It's definitely because the Zhao family requires him to constantly produce pills. Ancestor Zhao Shooting had been a Foundation Establishment realm alchemist himself. Even with such a precedent, Zhao Yuanci was still severely hindered. Being a gentle person by nature, Zhao Yuanci dutifully refined pills without complaint. "What about me then? I'm the only alchemist in the family. As soon as I ignite the pill flame, I can start bringing in profits to the family. Even if my family cares about me, I probably won't have much time to cultivate, and on top of that." Li Ziming had received the letter from home as soon as he had just broken through to the Jade Capital stage and ignited the pill flame to refine pills. He tried not to be suspicious, but this timing still chilled his heart. As he continued walking, he noticed a figure ahead who was standing with a sword in his arms. His eyebrows were sharp like blades, and his eyes were bright as the stars. It was Li Zijin. Li Zijin had already taken the talisman pill and reached the 6th stage of the embryonic breathing realm, making his strength a level higher than Li Ziming. He approached with his sword and said softly, "Brother, it's been too long since you came home. Why the long face?" Li Ziming looked at him blankly, then suddenly took out a jade box that had flowing golden patterns from his storage pouch. He handed it over with a sigh of relief and said, "I think you should take this." The Golden Yang Radiant Origin Qi. Li Zijin was stunned, unable to find his voice for a while before he erupted. "Li Ziming, have you lost your mind?" Li Ziming looked much more at ease and explained, "I've given it much thought. Our family needs a steady supply of pills and medicine, so I'll inevitably be spending a lot of time in alchemy. It'd be a waste for me to practice that grade 4 cultivation technique, so I was thinking of letting you have it instead. I'll use a less impressive technique and focus on alchemy. You should be the one overseeing the family." He paused, then added, "I've observed many alchemists in sects and families being hindered by their craft. Achieving the Foundation Establishment realm is rare among them. Perhaps I should follow the path my grandfather did. He specialized in drawing talismans instead of chasing after the Foundation Establishment realm." Li Zijin sneered and shot back, "I see, you've thought this through. But your grandfather only focused on drawing talismans because he had no hope of attaining the Foundation Establishment realm. You, however, clearly are more talented than the rest of us, yet you choose to dedicate yourself to alchemy." He could feel a rising frustration as he continued, "How can a Qi cultivation realm alchemist even be compared to a Foundation Establishment realm alchemist?" Gritting his teeth, he continued bluntly, "You're just scared, Li Ziming. The family has pinned so much hope and expectations on you, believing you could be another Xiao shooting. Yet here you are, overthinking things and trying to escape from all of it. Li Ziming, stung by the accusation, flushed and retorted, "So what if I'm trying to escape? It all falls on me, everything depends on me. You speak without feeling the weight. Do you truly think everyone can become like Xiao shooting? It's impossible to maintain such a pace of cultivation progress while mastering alchemy simultaneously. The world doesn't work that way. I fear I can't juggle alchemy and cultivation simultaneously. What if I die trying to reach the foundation establishment realm? All this precious spiritual qi would be squandered in vain. In that case, I wouldn't even make it as a qi cultivation realm alchemist," he added, his voice thick with distraught and frustration. Li Zijian had said what he wanted to say. He shoved the golden yang radiant origin qi back into Li Ziming's arms and said, "Fine, you'll accompany me up the mountain. We'll tell second uncle about this and let him decide." Li Ziming slumped onto the ground, clutching the jade box in his arms, and fell silent. Li Zijian let out a long sigh and softened his tone. "Brother, you shouldn't stress yourself out like this." "How can I not?" Li Ziming retorted weakly. He caressed the jade box on his lap, his voice soft and wistful as he said, "Our high ancestor remained immortal for 20 years before ultimately achieving the foundation establishment realm. Likewise, our 3 great ancestors were amazing heroes too. Whenever I read our family history, I just find them so amazing. As a child, I always heard the elders say you are most like them. You are calm, composed, thoughtful, and ruthless," he spoke softly. Chapter 432, Stripped of Clothes and Crown II. Li Ziming lifted his head and continued, "I tried feigning composure as well, but I've done poorly. Unlike you, I'm just a fox trying to act like a tiger. When I was 10, my father asked me to kill someone, and I did it. I knew what he expected me to become. I was terrified at the time, but didn't dare to show it. Later, when I went to the Xiao residence, I was led astray by the temptations of wine and women multiple times whenever I descended the mountain. Master Xiao had warned me repeatedly. I thought being a member of the Li family would shield me from such temptations, but..." Li Ziming's voice was muffled as he confessed, "In truth, I feared the clan affairs courtyard. I'm worried about tarnishing my father's reputation. With the elders looming over us, I have to behave myself. If I could get away with doing all that, I would have caved and given in to those temptations already." His demeanor was flustered, nearly panicked. Li Zijian was taken aback, his expression shifting dramatically before he could no longer contain himself, and interrupted anxiously, "Why, you've broken your yang essence already, with someone from the Xiao family no less. Our fathers took extensive precautions and planned everything meticulously, yet did you father any children?" he asked suddenly. Li Ziming shook his head silently, tears streaking his face as he replied, "I don't know. You don't know." Li Zijian stood up abruptly, gripping his sleeves tightly with an unreadable expression on his face. Finally, he flung his sleeve and said coldly, "You don't know, no wonder, no wonder." Li Ziming snapped his head up as if he had been kicked and pleaded, "Zijian, I am. No, please listen to me." He scrambled on the ground, standing abruptly, losing his composure momentarily as he blurted out, "I've had many discussions with Brother Cheng. I'm different from you. The words I shared with my father were often guided by my mother and grandmother. I am not the talent meant to carry the Li family to success." Gazing at the silent Li Zijian before him, Li Ziming felt a surge of regret and fear as he thought to himself, it would be better to be honest with him. At least I wouldn't have to keep up this pretense. Li Zijian looked at Li Ziming's expression, memories of their night discussing clan affairs on the mountain surfacing. After some reflection, he realized Li Ziming had always cleverly agreed with him. Since they had been close as brothers, he had never really paid any attention to this until now. "No wonder you were so eager to drink that night. I thought it was your first time drinking and you couldn't handle the alcohol. It turns out you wanted to get drunk quickly to avoid exposing your true self. They shouldn't have sent you to the Xiao family." Looking at the expression on Li Zijian's face, Li Ziming suddenly calmed down. He waved his hands, the azure manifestation on his wrist clinking softly. With a gentle, resigned tone, he said quietly, "Zijian, not everyone can be like you." Li Zijian closed his eyes, his demeanor turning frosty. After a long silence, he said, "Don't make any excuses. Come with me to the mountain and report everything. Let the clan make the decision." "Fine." As Li Ziming uttered his agreement, he was suddenly struck across the face, sending stars flashing before his eyes. His robe and jade crown were torn away, leaving his hair in disarray. The jade crown lay shattered on the ground, his medicine pouch and its contents scattered around him. He was clad only in a thin layer of white undergarment. Li Ziming finally registered what happened. He touched his nose and found it bloody. He then heard Li Zijian's icy voice break the silence. "Stay stripped of clothes and crown while you wait for your punishment." Buzz, the golden bowstring hummed softly. The middle-aged man lowered the longbow adorned with mysterious runes in his large hands. In the distance, an eagle lay in a pool of blood, its innards crushed. 2 men approached him from behind and showered him with words of flattery. General, you've truly earned your title as the Golden Bowstring. That shot was swift and masterful. They were from the Ning family, sent by Ning Hijing. Despite their flattery, Li Xuanfeng remained stoic. As the cultivator below dragged the slain beast closer, he responded gruffly, "Flattery breeds complacency, do not speak of it again." Since the flattery did not work, the flatterers quickly shifted the conversation to something else. They looked at the person presenting an eagle egg and exclaimed, "Congratulations, General. This Foundation establishment realm beast has left behind an offspring." Li Xuanfeng accepted the egg casually and then soared into the wind. He slung his bow over his back, then fished out a jade pendant from his storage pouch to enter the city. "Ning Hijing has credited me with more than 10 small merits. Together with my recent hunts, I should be able to redeem an essence-gathering pill without any issue. Considering the timing, Yuan Jio is likely about to establish his foundation. If only I could get Liu Changdi to bring it out with him." As soon as he landed in the city, a crowd gathered around him, chanting, "General." Li Xuanfeng offered a small smile and exchanged a few pleasantries with the crowd when a woman descended gracefully onto the city wall. She was clad in the green outfit that the cultivators of the immortal sect typically wore. The gold embroidery on her sleeves indicated her status as a peak master. Her eyebrows arched softly above her warm eyes, and she appeared to be in her 20s. The gathered clan cultivators fell silent and swiftly dispersed. Li Xuanfeng cupped his fist respectfully and said, "I am Li Xuanfeng. May I ask which peak master graces us today?" "Greetings, General." "I am Ningwen from Moonlake Peak," she replied. Ningwan was a mid-stage Foundation establishment realm cultivator who had refined the pine forest wind into the immortal foundation known as Clear Hearing. She exuded a subtle pine fragrance, refreshing yet bitter. Bathed in moonlight, she seemed almost ethereal. Li Xuanfeng bowed his head as Ningwan continued softly, "I have been waiting a long time. I did not expect the general to be so devoted to his duties. Please bathe and change your clothes. You have been summoned by a Taoist master." Li Xuanfeng was slightly taken aback. He remained solemn despite feeling puzzled. "Taoist master Yuan Su, what is this about?" He nodded, then retreated to change his attire, stowing his bow in his storage pouch before exiting his cave dwelling. Ningwan was still waiting outside the courtyard, idly toying with a string of jade beads. Upon seeing Li Xuanfeng emerge from the cave, she nodded slightly before both of them took to the wind. Ningwan suddenly asked, "When did your clan move to Moongaze Lake?" "The Great War back then devastated the southern shore, extinguishing all life there. I'm guessing it must have been within the last 300 years. Caught off guard by her abrupt question, Li Xuanfeng replied, "According to my clan's records, it was indeed 300 years after that Great War. The spiritual energy of the southern shore was cut off for more than 2 centuries, deterring any visitors, forcing us to live as mortals for those 300 years. "Ah," Ningwan smiled gently, her eyebrows arching playfully as she softly remarked, "Mortals with spiritual orifices and 3 generations of Foundation establishment realm cultivators. Fellow Taoist, you must be jesting. Such tales, if shared with the Taoist master, might lead to serious consequences." Her words, soft as the breeze, reverberated in his ears like thunder. Li Xuanfeng suddenly looked up, locking eyes with Ningwan's soft gaze. Ningwan, renowned as the most beautiful woman of Azure Pond and nicknamed the Fairy of the Autumn Lake even before she established her foundation, indeed had captivating eyes. However, Li Xuanfeng was not in the mood to appreciate them. "Is she trying to warn me? Why, my family has no ties to her, so why would she offer help? What is Yuan Su trying to do? Are they trying to unearth my family's secrets?" Chapter 433, Li of Wei I. Taoist Master Yuan Su's cave dwelling was modest, constructed from ordinary rock and devoid of lavish decorations, save for the coiling bronze statue of a beast that was neither a wolf nor tiger at its entrance. Ningwan led the way as they entered the cave dwelling together. Inside, Taoist Master Yuan Su sat elevated, absent-mindedly staring at a small, light golden seal in his hand. This was Li Xuanfeng's first meeting with a Purple Mansion realm cultivator. Taoist Master Yuan Su had a round face and lacked any imposing presence, appearing to be a man in his early 20s. He sat with a hand resting on his knee, looking rather relaxed. The air was thick with white mist that was swirling endlessly with exceptionally rich spiritual qi. In fact, it was potent enough that one could likely grasp a handful and refine it into minor, pure spiritual qi. The chill Li Xuanfeng felt around his ankles suggested that the source of the mist was likely a type of spirit water. Yuan Su wore light leather armor with a halberd lying beside him, both shimmering in light golden hues. He looked up. Li Xuanfeng greets the Taoist Master. Junior greets the Taoist Master. Taoist Master Yuan Su merely grunted in acknowledgement. The green walls were inscribed with lines of text, obscured by the thick spiritual qi that had condensed into mist. Although Li Xuanfeng could not read them, he could tell that they had been frequently altered due to the varying depth of the characters. Yuan Su did not keep them waiting for long. After a brief pause, he said, Wanner, the light in the void has faded. The person in question must have reincarnated, possibly somewhere between Yufu Prefecture and Linen Prefecture. Have someone keep an eye on those regions and prevent any conflicts from erupting. Junior understands, Ningguan replied with a slight nod. Yuan Su continued with his instructions. Make the necessary arrangements for those returning from the north from purging evil to protect the Dao. Ensure the metallic essence he is connected to remains intact and just see him back safely. Li Xuanfeng remained silent, absorbing the information from their conversation. Yuan Su then turned his gaze to him, asking gently, did Li Muxian ever establish an immortal foundation? Of what nature was it? Despite the sudden shift in topic, Li Xuanfeng was not caught off guard. Throughout his journey here, he had pondered this question often and replied calmly, my grandfather was a mortal man. Claims about him being a Foundation Establishment realm cultivator were merely baseless rumors. During times of vulnerability, our family let this rumor spread to leverage some advantage. Yuan Su nodded and asked, it's quite extraordinary that 3 of the 4 sons of a mortal man possess spiritual orifices. Do you know why? With the most important question finally voiced, Li Xuanfeng, well aware of the Purple Mansion realm cultivator's methods, nodded and chose his words carefully. Truth be told, our family has often pondered about our ancestral lineage as well. We've even heard rumors of an heir to the immortal mansion, bearing the surname Li, and wonder if there might be a connection between us. This direction of this conversation was nearly taboo to speak of, causing Ningguan to cast a worried glance his way. Yet, Li Xuanfeng maintained his composure, speaking calmly, as though he was discussing something as trivial as the weather. Oh. Taoist Master Yuan Su chuckled, his eyes twinkling with amusement as he responded, you speak of Donghua Li Jiangquan, such audacity. Waving his hand, he continued, most Li and Kui families trace their origins back to Wei State. The most probable lineage would be from the Li family of Wei State, followed by the Li family from Mount Tan of Wu State. The Li family was distinguished back in the days, leaving behind many lineages. As for Taoist Master Donghua. Li Xuanfeng's voice trailed off. Taoist Yuan Su's gaze lingered on Li Xuanfeng's gray eyes for a moment before he smiled and replied, Taoist Master Donghua was a capable cultivator who hailed from Ning State. Were your family truly connected, your circumstances would be markedly different. Pausing, he beckoned gently, come forward. As Li Xuanfeng moved closer to the man, Yuan Su placed a hand on his shoulder, and with the other he performed a hand seal to cast a spell. A colorful light appeared in his hand as a sharp pain pricked Li Xuanfeng's fingertip, drawing blood. The blood swirled within the radiant light, transforming into a golden gleam. Yuan Su murmured, Li of Wei indeed, though the Dao lineage has long since been severed. As a Purple Mansion realm cultivator, it was a surprise that he would spend so much effort to find an answer to this question. Yuan Su dispersed the spell with a flick of his wrist and confirmed, your family is descendants of the Li of Wei. He paused, his expression clouded with contemplation. Moments later, clarity seemed to dawn on him, his face brightening with a triumphant smile as if he had just solved a puzzle that troubled him for a long time. I've always wondered why those bald donkeys had persistently antagonized your Li family. Now it all makes sense. After the Jai people conquered Wei State and took control of the north, they destroyed the Zheiyuan Immortal Mansion. That definitely explains the blood feud. Surely you must be the descendant of the main Li family from Wei State. Yuan Su, who was centuries old, had experienced most of life's pleasures and was no longer easily impressed. However, the revelation of such an elaborate scheme has left him visibly pleased, and he exclaimed with a broad smile, that's a clever ploy. Even those monks might never unravel why fate has conspired with you. The wrathful Maha only knew he had to kill the whale, but did not know the origin of it. Were it not for my seemingly trivial intervention, who would have realized this? Employing the bright yang metallic essence to weave a plot over a millennium, this is truly the work of a great cultivator. Such is the art of a golden core realm cultivator. Li Xuanfeng, though only partially comprehending, felt relieved to have averted a crisis. Yuan Su, caught up in his enthusiasm, paced excitedly. He suddenly paused, reflecting with a hint of regret. It's no wonder Xiao Shooting plays chess the way he does. If that old thing didn't redo his cultivation, he would have been a truly formidable junior. Ningguan, equally taken aback by Yuan Su's rare display of emotion, recognized snippets of the larger narrative. Is he talking about the wrathful Maha's incident? A partial understanding often carried the most profound impact. Chills ran down Ningguan's spine as fear gripped her. So these are the capabilities of a golden core realm cultivator. Even if besieged and killed, he still managed to devise a contingency plan to kill the 9th Maha reincarnate a millennium later. She was chilled to the core, feeling utterly powerless against the pristine water origin talisman true monarch above. Who else could possibly thwart the schemes of the 3 true monarchs of Yue State then? Li Xuanfeng remained silent, absorbing the revelations, piecing together fragments of the truth. However, the Taoist master seemed like he had no desire to say more as he had affirmed Li Xunfeng to be the descendant of the Li family from Wei State. He patted Li Xunfeng's shoulder and suggested with a grin, "Li Xunfeng, since you are unmarried, why don't you consider taking a bride from my Ning family?" Li Xunfeng was taken aback by the suggestion, but before he could respond, Taoist master Yuan Su added with a teasing smirk, "Don't even think about Wanner. She has the potential to reach the Purple Mansion realm, but your path is fraught with challenges. Hemian would be a good match. Act swiftly and waste no time," Yuan Su said. Recognizing the finality in Yuan Su's tone, Li Xunfeng knew refusal was not an option. Chapter 434, Li of Wei II. Meanwhile at Li residence on Mount Lijiang. The small courtyard atop the mountain was eerily silent, bathed in moonlight so white it resembled frost. Li Ziming, who was dressed in white, kneeled quietly on the ground. His cheeks were swollen, bruised with patches of purple and red. Li Yunjiao sat in the high seat before him with a dark face. His naturally fierce face was filled with anger, and he looked as if he were on the verge of devouring someone alive. Unlike his granduncle Li Tongya, whose anger was silent and brooding, Li Yunjiao's wrath blazed visibly in his eyes. When his face tensed, malice was clearly etched across his features. Li Qinghong was present from the beginning, and she stood silently at the side, her expression as cold as frost. Li Ziming dared not lift his gaze. After a prolonged tense silence, the sound of hurried footsteps approached from outside. Li Yuanping pushed the door open, his expression. He stood at the side of the room in silence despite his heart aching for his child. Li Yunjiao narrowed his eyes, trying his best to suppress his rage as he asked dangerously calmly, "Brother Ping, is this the work of man on creek?" Li Yuanping's face was pale. The frail man kneeled and bowed deeply, answering the question solemnly. "He has no reason to. Besides, Ziming has a talisman seed in him." Li Yunjiao slowly shook his head, his upset evident. He had just retreated into seclusion not long ago, only to be abruptly interrupted. The sight of his junior in such a state only deepened his dismay. He lamented internally, "I can only blame myself for being so engrossed in cultivation that I failed to observe the younger ones closely. I always thought he was a disciplined one, so I rashly sent him to the Xiao family. This is my fault." Uncertainty about any descendants in the Xiao family weighed heavily on him. Shattering his yang essence is no great sin. Youthful indiscretions are not unheard of. But what if he leaves behind an heir out there? Ziming is the eldest son of the Chenghu's direct lineage, the first lineage. Any child of his would follow in that lineage. Without future offspring, that child will be the last of Chenghu's lineage. Even if Ziming does leave behind a child out there, there are still clan rules and laws to consider. A profound silence fell over the courtyard. Li Yuanping slowly sat down and said softly, "Why not?" Before he could finish, Li Yunjiao interrupted him with a wave of his hand. He cast a glance at Li Ziming and suggested, "Let's discuss this inside." The three moved to the backyard, where Li Yuanping continued in a hushed tone, "Why not strip this child of his status in the clan system and expel him from the main family just as a precaution?" "No," Li Yunjiao looked at him and continued, "He is your only son. Doing so will end the first lineage. This can be solved with an adoption," Li Yuanping suggested. Li Ziming was his biological son, yet his words were ruthless. His face betrayed no emotion, save for his slightly trembling hands. Li Yunjiao shook his head and said, "He's just a young man lured by pleasures. We shouldn't be too harsh. Since he has shown genuine remorse, we'll revoke only his title as the future young family head. All else will remain unchanged." Our shadow enveloped Li Yunjiao's face as he continued in a deep voice. "This matter should not be met with harsh punishment, but handled with leniency. He worries about having to balance cultivation with clan duties, right? Let him receive the golden yang radiant origin Qi as planned, and before he establishes his foundation, we will not burden him with too many responsibilities in alchemy." Li Yuanping listened to the lenient sentence, slowly lifting his head to ask, "And who shall be the future young family head?" "We'll try Zicheng." As soon as Li Yunjiao finished speaking, Li Yuanping's expression shifted rapidly, and he whispered urgently, "Brother, this could lead to chaos." Li Yunjiao shook his head, gritting his teeth. "This is the only path forward for now." Li Yuanping's face reddened, his voice deepening. "What happens after Zicheng? Will the second lineage continue ruling the family, or will it revert to the first lineage? You should know that this decision could start a crack in the family." Li Yunjiao's response was hoarse. "What do you want then? Turn Ziming, a prodigious alchemist of our family, into a bitter enemy?" Li Yuanping's expression hardened and he replied ruthlessly, "If it comes to that, I will cripple his cultivation with my own hands." Tears streamed down Li Yuanping's face, having already lost his voice at this point. Li Yunjiao rose from the shadows, his face illuminated by moonlight. "Ziming has received a talisman seed and read the internal history," he reminded his younger brother sternly. Both men fell into a heavy silence. After a long pause, Li Qinghong finally spoke. "How about this? We claim he was led astray by an enemy's divine ability, which will spare him excessive self-blame and calm the public's unrest." It's unwise to punish him too harshly. Let's set this accusation aside for now and pretend nothing happened. We'll explain to Ziming that he was under the influence of a divine ability. Li Yuanping's anger ebbed slightly as he whispered, "So you want us to pretend nothing happened, but we can't be certain what the Zhao family thinks. Moreover, given what has transpired, how can we still rely on him?" Li Qinghong replied thoughtfully, "Using him might be better than not. He is still a descendant of the Li family. Perhaps he's only confused momentarily, but not forever. Let's wait and see." Zicheng used to be stoic, but now he's a benevolent and kind person who can predict the future. People can change. We can't say for sure he will give up on his debauchery ways after this, but my brother and I are still in our prime. With the profound light's protection, the family isn't in immediate danger, she added. Exhaling softly, she continued, "When grandfather was still around, he was always cautious, never sowing seeds of disaster over uncertainties. It's wiser to act prudently." Li Yuanping cupped his fist and calmly urged, "I still think it is better to remain vigilant, brother and sister. My days are numbered. I fear I cannot avert the inevitable." After bowing deeply, he departed. Li Qinghong watched him leave, then turned to the silent Li Yunjiao and sighed. Yuanping is being too extreme. Although Ziming has made a mistake, he doesn't deserve to be punished so harshly. Brother, you should have intervened. The recent quarrel between the two brothers was apparent. Though Li Yunjiao appeared to defend Li Ziming, his suggestions subtly pushed Li Ziming toward peril, prompting Li Yuanping's outcry about crippling his own son's cultivation. Yet Li Yunjiao was still dissatisfied and wanted to push for. Li Qinghong listened to the entire exchange, feeling chilled to her core, and knew she had to intercede to put an end to it. Li Yunjiao stood under the moonlight, listening to her as he clutched his sword tightly. "I can't bear it either. Yuanping's harshness stems from a deep affection for his son. Otherwise, he'd never allow leniency," he commented softly. He understood the immense effort Li Yuanping had invested in his only son and how much hope he had for him. Li Yunjiao murmured, "Brother Ping's talents are limited by his root bone. His only hope lay in this boy. Since he had high hopes for him, his disappointment is great. His child has truly let him down." Li Qinghong commented, emotionally torn. Li Yunjiao sighed and instructed, "Don't let them meet for the time being. Send Ziming to Mount Yuding to cultivate. We must prevent Yuanping from saying something that might fracture their bond. Young men are quick to anger, and too much blame could bring trouble." With those words, he departed from the rear courtyard in silence. Li Ziming was still kneeling at the entrance, accompanied by Li Zijun. However, now Li Zicheng was also kneeling beside them quietly. As Li Yunjiao emerged, Li Zicheng began, "It's my fault for not guiding my brothers properly. Please." Li Yunjiao, already irritated, interrupted him with a dismissive gesture. He soared into the sky and gazed at Moongaze Lake from above, clutching his sword tightly. "Ancestor, I've never hesitated to vanquish foes and slay demons, yet I find myself utterly drained when it comes to upholding justice and fairness." He murmured softly with a burdened sigh. He stood in the air, feeling the northern wind blowing against his face. After a long, contemplative sigh, he repeated the familiar words solemnly. Jiao dares not forget. Chapter 435, The Separation of Immortals and Mortals. Li Yuanping returned to the town, his heart still aching with anger and sorrow. His eyes were bloodshot as he entered the main hall, which was dimly lit, with two small flickering lamps barely illuminating the space. Dragging his exhausted body along, he sat on the highest seat and picked up a document, only to find himself unable to focus. Frustrated, he coughed twice, swallowing the blood that rose in his throat. "Do you hurried in, climbing the steps quickly?" Li Yuanping spoke in a low voice. "Prepare the ink." Ji obediently ground the ink, and after finishing, Li Yuanping waved him away. Taking up the brush, Li Yuanping gradually calmed down, taking some time to think through his thoughts carefully. The position of family head required balancing the external branches of the clan, managing the spirit fields, and distributing the clan's stipends. It involved managing the benefits of nearly the entire clan, from those in the embryonic breathing realm to those in the qi cultivation realm. Ever since Li Xuanxun became the family head and established the 4 lineages, the rule of single succession had been set. Now, with the Li family firmly under the control of the main family endowed with the talisman seed, the family head could be appointed arbitrarily, with the wise ruling and the foolish obeying. But once this precedent was set, future descendants of the main family, whose bloodlines would become more distant and whose backgrounds would differ, might begin to support different lineages, leading to internal strife. If it comes to that, the position of family head will become a tool for power struggles among the talisman seed-bearing cultivators, used to exploit the family. Moreover, as Li Yuanping's emotions settled, his thoughts became sharper and he mused, seeing how things are with Ming'er, he is ultimately not fit for great responsibility. If the Li family were handed over to him, how could he suppress the external branches? How could he control someone like Li Jimin? The hall was silent, with only Li Yuanping sitting high above in the dim light, his gaze fixed on the flickering lamps. His voice was low as he continued solemnly, In the end, the family lacks a figure of great power to maintain order. Foundation establishment realm may be achievable, but the Purple Mansion realm is far beyond reach. Without significant fortune, the family is destined for decline or division. He stared blankly ahead of him as the first light of dawn slowly crept into the hall. His elder brother, Li Yunjiao, stood quietly at the entrance, unnoticed by Li Yuanping, who was deep in thought. As the morning light climbed the steps of the main hall, Li Yuanping spoke in a muffled voice. The current clan law was established by our great-grandfather. In those days, the family had only a few in the embryonic breathing realm. How could he have foreseen today's situation? Simply following the old laws may not be the best approach. Only then did Li Yuanping notice Li Yunjiao standing before him. His gaze was sharp as he spoke softly. Brother, if I were to die, who in the family should take the lead, suppress the external branches, command Mount Yue, and manage the clan while nurturing the younger generation? Li Yunjiao hesitated before answering slowly. At present, only Zijin is capable of such a task. Aside from him, Zicheng is too kind and Ziming is. It is indeed difficult to pick among those in the generation of Zai and Yue. They are all highly talented. By right, none should be singled out to lead. But if their generation passes without a strong leader and the next generation lacks a dominant figure, what then? Li Yuanping asked. Li Yunjiao vaguely understood the meaning behind his words and replied, if that happens, it cannot be helped. Brother, I intend to reform the clan system. He suddenly stood up and declared, the authority of the family head is far too great, a system established during the time of Lord Xiangping. But how many in the clan can match him? This method centralizes power and benefits, but it is truly too difficult to manage. Our descendants cannot always produce individuals with exceptional cunningness but moderate talent. What happened with Ziming may seem coincidental, but in truth, it reveals that our family can no longer sustain such a system of governance. Sooner or later, something will go wrong. Letter 10342. Li Yunjiao looked at him intently, saying nothing for a long time. Finally, he replied gently, do what you must, I will support you. Li Yuanping seemed to have fully recovered from his disappointment in his eldest son, but there was a lingering sense of melancholy as he said in a deep voice, first, we'll measure the spirit fields, record everything, and begin to decentralize power. For prestigious clans, it was nearly impossible to fully account for privately held spirit fields. Even the Azurpon sect couldn't accurately assess the spirit fields of the clans under its jurisdiction, having to rely on a rough estimate based on the number of Foundation Establishment Realm cultivators when collecting tribute. The reason was simple. As long as an illusionary formation was in place, a small piece of land could easily blend into the vast mountains and seas, making it virtually impossible to detect unless by sheer chance or a sweep of one's spiritual sense. Although the Azurpon sect had specialized techniques for breaking formations, it was unrealistic to inspect every kun of land thoroughly, so they had to rely on estimations based on earth veins and spirit veins. This same reason explained why so many remnants of the Immortal Devil War still existed within the sea, with their protective formations so advanced that even if one were to bash their head against them, they still would not be able to find the entrance. However, when Li Yunjiao summoned the mirror, he was able to see every kun of the Li family's land clearly. He could immediately identify which prominent families had secretly built small courtyards and demarcated spirit fields, as they were all exposed before his eyes. Indeed, this situation was inevitable. Every prominent family under the Li family's rule had privately developed spirit fields. In the barren lands that the Li family had deemed worthless, they had secretly enclosed courtyards and set up illusionary formations to plant spirit patties. This was considered the lesser offense. Over the years, as more external cultivators joined the family, they had come into contact with many cultivation methods from rogue cultivators. Not all children with a spiritual orifice were sent to the Li family. Some external cultivators even ventured out to seek other opportunities, never to return. Li Yunjiao's gaze swept over the area, noting that even some minor sect cultivators of the Zai and Yue generation were involved. He sighed quietly. These lands may be barren, but they are still free. After all, no matter how good the family's lands are, most of the yield still has to be handed over. It is far more satisfying to grow and harvest for oneself. The family had inspected these spirit fields twice before, and those remaining were within the allowed regulations. Li Yunjiao carefully documented everything and returned to the hall, where Li Yuanping had been writing furiously for some time. When Li Yunjiao returned, Li Yuanping took the map he had drawn and circled several immortal mountains. After pondering for a moment, he spoke softly, Brother, I have carefully studied the old methods from Lixia Prefecture and the current practices of the Yuan family. Take a look at my plan. Li Yunjiao lowered his head to examine it, and at the top were large letters, Dual Clan System, Peak and Town Counterbalance. Li Yuanping, his face pale but eyes bright, explained, Now that our family has more cultivators than ever, I want to separate the clan system from the sect system. placing the clan above and the sect below, separating immortals from mortals. Cultivators would join the peaks and form the clan, while mortals would descend the mountain and form the sect. Unless specifically assigned for demon extermination, none are permitted to descend the mountain. When an external or clan member develops a spiritual orifice, they will be sent to the main peak of Mount Lijing to cultivate, where our family cultivators will carefully guide them. Those with high aptitude will continue their cultivation, while those with lower aptitude will be sent to other peaks. Each immortal mountain will establish its own office, dispersing the descendants of the 4 lineages into them. They will have a peak master, an enforcer, and a clan chief. All spirit fields below the mountain will no longer be individually assigned, but managed by the respective immortal mountains. The cultivators of each immortal mountain will rotate and be reassigned regularly. The collected spirit resources will be sent directly to Lijing and delivered to the cave dwelling on Mount Mike. As for the family head, the head will handle promotions and assignments, while the clan chiefs and enforcers will monitor the clan's affairs. With the mirror in the family, any embezzlement of spirit resources is almost certain to be exposed. Chapter 436, The Separation of Immortals and Mortals, II. Li Yuanping's eyes gleamed brightly as he went on. Looking at today's situation, many of the external and branch cultivators are stealing spirit patties, searching for treasures, transporting spirit resources, and seeking the Tao outside because there are no other paths to take within the family aside from cultivating spirit patties. Without the opportunity for advancement, there is naturally no loyalty. Finally, he concluded, under this new system, not only would our family no longer need to find large, talentless direct descendants to manage the family and maintain stability, but it would also create positions and ranks that would attract people to align with our family. Li Yuanjiao read through the detailed regulations. Naturally, Li Yuanping had included much more than he had mentioned verbally. The plan was filled with various checks and balances, cultivation restrictions, and measures to curb corruption and rebellion. If this is the case, the clan affairs courtyard will need many more personnel for oversight, and the various ranks will require clan stipends to maintain integrity. Li Yuanjiao frowned as he read, realizing that while Li Yuanping's plan could indeed appease most cultivators, it would significantly increase the Li family's governance costs. He hesitated, weighing the potential benefits against the losses. However, Li Yuanping smiled confidently and responded readily. Cultivating immortality and seeking the Tao is inherently one of the most greed-driven pursuits. Our family will soon be able to produce elixirs. Once these are tied to the ranks, many will flock to them. Besides, the desire for power is one of the 9 calamities. When combined with other incentives, few can resist. He added in a low voice, as long as the external and branch families are eager to climb the ranks, they can be used by us. We will not need to rely on producing a genius every generation who can suppress and command them. Even ordinary people will suffice. Even in normal times, we could promote people at will based on the lists provided by the clan affairs courtyard. This would allow us to manage the family, even in the midst of cultivation. Li Yuanjiao gradually became intrigued, picking up where Li Yuanping left off. This way, our family would not need to constantly monitor the external families. As long as we keep an eye on a few outstanding individuals and marry them into the family, the mirror will keep everything under control, allowing us to secure our position on the immortal mountain. Exactly. Li Yuanping agreed and continued, even if we have to distribute more clan stipends, so what? Brother, you are about to break through to the foundation establishment realm. The family will soon be very different. Li Yuanjiao finally nodded in agreement, saying, but in the end, it is because we descendants are unworthy, unable to concentrate power in one person, so we must delegate power and benefits to maintain stability. I just wonder how we will face our ancestors. Li Yuanping nodded silently, comforting him. Maximum benefit does not always mean maximum stability. As our family continues to expand, division of power will become inevitable. We cannot afford to lose. Li Yuanjiao spoke with him for a while, feeling heavy-hearted, and then set off for Mount Wudu, intending to spend some time stabilizing his cultivation before entering seclusion to break through to the foundation establishment realm, Mount Yuding. The snow on Mount Yuding remained pristine and bright. Li Zijian opened his eyes, exhaling a breath of white mist that collided with the longsword in his hand, forming a thin layer of frost. The Cold Pine Dew Snow Technique Manual is indeed a Grade 3 technique, cloaking me in dew and snow, allowing me to ride on cold winds. His white robes fluttered as his power reached the first heavenly layer of the Qi cultivation realm. His true essence was as pure as frost, which was swirling all around him, and combined with the sharp blade in his hand, he appeared untouched by the world. In just over 2 years, 3 members of the Xian Yue generation had broken through in succession, adding 3 Qi cultivators to the Li family's main lineage. Li Yuanjiao and Li Qinghang had both gone into seclusion one after the other, and both the main lineage and external branches of the family had made significant progress. The number of minor sect cultivators in the Yuan and Qing generation was few, but with the Zai and Yue generation, the minor sect cultivators, mainly from the first and second lineages, had begun to take charge of the spirit fields. According to the Li family's ancestral laws, most of the descendants of Li Muxian's illegitimate brothers had gradually transformed from minor sects into side branches due to the rarity of spiritual orifices, slowly fading from history. With the restraint of offspring by the two major sects of the Xuan and Jing generation, Li Xuanling and Li Xunfeng, it was not until the third generation that the minor sects of the four lineages in the Li family began to flourish, led by the minor sects formed by the illegitimate sons of Li Xuanxuan and Li Yuanian, who took over the power of the previous generation. Of course, Li Zijian saw this as a favorable development. It prevented the emergence of hundreds of mortal elders of his father's generation, but brought the estranged minor sect closer to the center of power and thus resolved many conflicts. Young Master, Ensiming, with a sword at his side, approached and cupped his fist respectfully. Li Zijian, who had been in seclusion for a year and a half, suddenly noticed that Ensiming's spirit and demeanor had changed. He seemed more hopeful in life and was more motivated. Li Zijian could not help but laugh at this observation and ask, "Have you taken a wife?" Ensiming was taken aback, shaking his head repeatedly before continuing, "You must be joking, young master. Young Master Zicheng is already waiting at the foot of the mountain." Li Zijian descended gracefully to the foot of the mountain, where his elder brother, Li Zicheng, had been waiting for some time, clad in leather armor. He looked more mature now, seeming to be around 26 or 27 years old. Li Zicheng was also at the Qi cultivation realm, practicing the River One Qi technique. He had married a woman from the Tian family and taken concubines mostly from that family, so he had many children, most of whom were 2 or 3 years old. As a father to so many children now, Li Zicheng had grown a beard and tied his hair, exuding a dignified presence. He greeted Li Zijian with a warm smile, saying, "It has been a long time, brother." Li Zijian nodded slightly and landed beside him. A nearby horse snorted, eyeing him warily. Li Zijian scanned the area with his spiritual sense, noting that the sides were filled with cultivators, primarily his illegitimate brothers and external branches of humble origins, all standing respectfully on either side. As a youth, Li Zicheng had loved to protect his kin and befriend cultivators. Those who had benefited from his kindness now flocked around him. Li Zicheng waved his broad hand and the crowd dispersed right away. The two brothers strolled along the stone path, and Li Zicheng in a warm tone said with a smile, "This past year, while you and Ziming were in seclusion, there have been significant changes in the family. The family head has reformed the clan system. It is no longer as it was before." He then recounted all the events of the past year and a half. Li Zijian frowned as he listened, and when Li Zicheng finally finished, he added, "Now, the changes have taken effect easily. Several immortal mountains have been restructured, and the construction of grand palaces is in full swing. All the cultivators are cooperating, contributing their money and effort. They would naturally cooperate." Li Zijian thought it through quickly and understood the situation clearly. His expression darkened and he said coldly, "The clan has given them power and stipends. They are not fools, of course they are pleased." Li Zijian spoke these words, but inwardly he pondered to himself, no wonder the spiritual qi on Mount Yuding has diminished significantly. It turns out that cultivators have entered the mountain. The family should start building a spirit-gathering formation so as not to delay the cultivation of the main lineage. Li Zicheng quickly smiled, trying to smooth things over. They are not taking it for free. The clan has assigned them various tasks, and now they are out there working, even bringing in some extra income for the family. Seeing that Li Zicheng still did not understand, Li Zijian looked around, saw no one nearby, and sighed as he spoke his thoughts. "Brother, our elders have reluctantly divided their power. As juniors, we should feel ashamed, not proud." Chapter 437, Yufu's Affairs I. Li Zicheng suddenly choked up, shaking his head helplessly. He took out the jade slip containing the sect system from his sleeve and handed it over to Li Zijian, then said softly, "The new system has just been established, and most of the positions are still vacant. However, Uncle Ping can still manage the family affairs for now. We should hold on to the current personnel. They will be reassigned eventually. You can see for yourself." Li Zijian looked at his older brother in surprise, then took the jade slip and examined it closely. "The dual clan system," he murmured softly. As he continued reading, he understood the peak and town counterbalance system described at the end. Going back to the front, he carefully read about the dual clan system again. After a long silence, he remarked softly, "Clan uncle. He's splitting the 4 lineages and planning to establish a government on a peak. Is this still a family?" Li Zicheng, alarmed by what he perceived as a bold remark, asked in a deep voice, "What are you trying to say?" Li Zijian's face turned gloomy as he replied, "With this approach, we'll become the Lijing sect instead of the Li family of Lijing. The harmony of a family is maintained through generational continuity. If the members are scattered among the various peaks, how can it still be considered a family? Li Zicheng cast a glance at him and asked quietly, "What do you propose?" "Just a few modifications to be made," Li Zicheng replied, looking again at the jade slip, feeling that something was amiss. "This one only details the sect system, not the clan system. External cultivators and those from the branch family can be distributed among the peaks, but not the major and minor sects," he added. He swung his sleeves and rode the wind toward the central hall. Meanwhile, on Mount Lijing, Li Yuanping had worked tirelessly for over a year, finally setting up numerous systems in place. As his workload gradually reduced and his efforts began to show results, he felt a sense of relief. Big Brother has been cultivating in seclusion. I wonder how much longer before he'll emerge again and how confident he is to achieve a breakthrough. Just then, a commotion erupted in front of the central hall. Li Zicheng, who was dressed in white, hurried into the hall with a frown. He kneeled and bowed deeply, speaking in a solemn voice. "Nephew greets the family head. He's here." Li Yuanping had been waiting for him for a long time. With his current influence in the family, no one could contest the new law. Only the younger generation dared to voice objections, so he smiled and asked, "What do you think, Junner?" Li Zicheng's bright eyes met his clan uncle's gaze. He was not about to criticize the plan outright and embarrass Li Yuanping. Instead, he took a different approach to the matter. "I have a request to make." "Go on." Li Yuanping encouraged him and listened attentively. He enjoyed conversing with this nephew of his tremendously. Li Zicheng always managed to voice his objections tactfully, without causing discomfort to anyone. "My request is to rebuild the Snake Demon Cave dwelling on the lake, fill in the lake to create an island, and establish a department there. We should move the direct lineage of the family, along with the most talented minor sect members, to this island to cultivate and use it as the headquarters of the Li family." He added softly, "Junner understands your vision. What I mean to say is, the dual clan system should not turn our family into a sect. Li family on the lake and offices on the shore of the lake." Li Yuanping smiled slightly and nodded. Li Zicheng then stepped forward, pointing to the map, and explained, "The lakeside will serve as a base for managing matters related to external cultivators and protecting the mortals. Meanwhile, the lake itself will house the cultivators from the 4 direct lineages of the family and the talented members of the minor sect. One day, when Moongaze Lake is unified, we can then move to the heart of the lake, where the marketplace ruins are. From then on, we'll become the exalted immortal clan of the lake, and the areas around the lake will become a prefecture." Li Zicheng's ambition was evident in his firm gaze. Li Yuanping listened with growing excitement. Li Zicheng continued, "I have explored the cave. Although it is not suitable for growing paddies, it's quite spacious and rich in spiritual qi, making it ideal for cultivation. There's no formation protecting the cave, so our people have gradually withdrawn since the ancestor's death. Isn't it nice to be able to put it to use again?" After making his point, Li Zicheng lowered his gaze and added, "This is just my humble opinion." Li Yuanping shook his head with a smile and assured, "Humility is not needed here. My father has already sent word to Shanji Prefecture in the east and asked the cultivators of the Profound Peak Gate to move the mountain and build the island. He just wanted to keep it a secret to avoid any ambushes." Li Zicheng was momentarily taken aback before he sighed in relief. "So, clan uncle has had this plan all along. I was overthinking and speaking ignorantly." Li Yuanping laughed and asked, "Do you remember the Rui family?" He pulled out a vermilion brush, circled a spot on the map, and explained, "The earth vein of this mountain is weak, but the water vein is rich, and there is a spirit spring. I intend to ask the members of the Profound Peak Gate to move this mountain and place it on the lake to serve as our family's main peak. We can eliminate the influence of the green essence copper and utilize this spirit spring directly, saving the family from having to purchase one. Not only that, isn't it wonderful to have another peak?" The Li family had acquired a vein searching technique from their family years ago, known as the Earthly Court Detection Technique, which allowed them to thoroughly investigate the earth and water veins. Li Zicheng listened to the explanation and replied, "Can the earth and water veins still be used after the move? Will the spirit spring disappear? It's best we request the people from the Profound Peak Gate to assess whether these resources will remain viable after the relocation first." Li Yuanping smiled and replied, "It's not really a big problem. Currently, 12 families on the eastern shore have pledged allegiance and are paying tribute to us. We can select the most suitable one and offer them some compensation for the relocation. It won't cost much." Li Zicheng sighed with relief, a smile spreading across his face. He stood up and said, "Uncle, you are wise. It seems like I was worried for nothing." Li Yuanping's expression grew serious. He sighed and said softly, "Junner, there's something I would like to tell you. Your father passed away early, and the generation of Zion Yue has more members in the minor than major sect. If anything were to happen to me, the family would rely on you. Zicheng is your elder brother, so I can't speak ill of him. Ziming has let us down too. As an elder, this is the best I can do for my family." Having worked tirelessly for years, Li Yuanping's complexion had deteriorated, and his smile was no longer as warm and pleasant. He continued in a subdued tone, "After this matter is settled, I will gradually step back from family affairs. You will need to take charge." On Mount Yuding, Li Ziming sat cross-legged. The true essence of the Golden Palace radiant origin technique flowed around him, casting hues of gold and red in the dim room. He slowly opened his eyes and exhaled a wisp of golden qi. Perhaps due to lingering doubts about the divine abilities of the man on Creek, the elders had imposed a surprisingly light punishment, just confinement. Everything else remained unchanged. He was still eligible to receive pills and resources from the family, but he was no longer burdened by family affairs. Although he was confined to this lonely little courtyard, any resources he required were promptly sent to him at all times. Li Zijun also visited him occasionally. Li Ziming felt as though a heavy weight had been lifted from his shoulders. Feeling much at ease, his cultivation progressed rapidly too. "This is the best," he murmured to himself. He practiced diligently every day and studied alchemy texts in his spare time. Considerate of his needs, Li Zijun frequently sent spirit items for him to practice with, and aptly named his residence the Alchemy Pavilion. Free from the clan's affairs, Li Ziming focused solely on refining pills and cultivating, channeling all his guilt into his work. Chapter 438, Yufu's Affairs II. Li Ziming had poor mental fortitude. Under intense pressure in his youth, he often fantasized about becoming a Dharma reliquant entirely devoted to cultivation and pill refinement, calmly sitting atop the fire vane. As long as he could continue to contribute tirelessly, he would not have to worry about disappointing his father. "I guess I'm pretty much living my childhood dream right now." Li Ziming tapped his storage pouch lightly, causing a furnace to emerge and land on the ground with a thud. It was pitch black and supported by 3 legs, adorned with intricate patterns of waves and beasts, and engraved with the name Furnace in the river. He retrieved a white and yellow wooden block, an embryonic breathing realm spirit item known as precious pearl wood. Bringing his palms together, he summoned a pale golden pill flame. Li Ziming nodded with satisfaction. As expected of a grade 4 cultivation technique, the Golden Palace Radiant Origin Manual is truly remarkable. Since its true essence is pure yang energy, the pill flame it conjures surpasses the original. To refine the Yongqing pill, I should use the precious pearl wood with Blazing Sun Trinine technique. This was the knowledge Zhao Yuanci had accumulated over time. Li Ziming placed the wooden block at the bottom of the furnace and took out a jade box. Using his mana, he picked up the Yongqing fruit and added it to the furnace. He slowly extracted the essence, then added a few supplementary medicinal ingredients, one after another. Finally, he used the pill flame to continuously refine the mixture. After about an hour, 6 pale red spirit pills emerged from the furnace. Yongqing pills, embryonic breathing realm, complete. These 6 pills could sustain 6 embryonic breathing realm cultivators for several months, but it had only taken him an hour to refine. Li Ziming stored them with a special method, feeling a deep sense of satisfaction within him. "Father, Ziming has not failed his elders. Had his yang essence not been broken, he would definitely have had a chance to refine an extra half of the pill." Reflecting on this, he bowed his head silently, then took out more spirit items from his storage pouch and prepared to refine another batch. Having relocated from Su State, Profound Peak Gate had settled in Shanji Prefecture. The gate's sole guardian was Taoist Master Changxi, and most of its members cultivated earth elemental profound techniques. Since Shanji Prefecture was quite large, there were many members in the Profound Peak Gate. The Profound Peak Gate was relatively modest, with only a few foundation establishment cultivators and disciples who were not particularly arrogant. While Li Xuanxun's arrival was being reported, he was warmly entertained by 2 outer disciples. Being the weakest of the 7 gates, Profound Peak Gate had only a handful of foundation establishment realm cultivators, and its disciples were quite humble. Li Xuanxun waited at the foot of the mountain with the old monkey until a cultivator came down to meet him. Dressed in white, the cultivator's good looks were spoiled by the moles on both cheeks that somewhat diminished his temperament. Adorned with various jade ornaments, he smiled and said, "Greetings, fellow Taoist from Lijiang. I am Kong Yu of Profound Peak Gate. May I ask for your name?" Despite being a Peak Chi cultivator, Kong Yu was very courteous. Surprised by his humble demeanor, Li Xuanxun quickly replied, "I am Li Xuanxun from the Li family." Kong Yu smiled and asked, "And the Celestial Moon Sword is?" "He's my second uncle." Upon learning of their close relationship, Kong Yu nodded approvingly and added, "Our Taoist master was present when Senior Tangya slayed the Maha with his sword. He praised your esteemed family's swordsmanship, noting that even within the Wanyu Sword Gate, the Li family's sword skills are exceptional." "Senior is too kind," Li Xuanxun replied modestly. Kong Yu sighed and continued, "If it weren't for the devil plague and the ongoing conflicts between the Wanyu Sword Gate, Chunni Dao Gate and Crimson Reef Island over the Green Pine Temple ruins, someone would have sought guidance from your family already. It's a pity that Senior Tangya missed his chance for greater fame. Li Xuanxun thought to himself quietly. The current top swordsman in our family is Jiaor, who is comparable to Xuanling from back then, but he can't possibly match second uncle, who had already grasped sword chi when he was only at the Jade Capital stage of the embryonic breathing realm. Without the rise of the Devil Plague, his reputation might have faded long ago. Seeing that Li Xuanxun was not interested in discussing this matter further, Kang Yu got straight to the point. Are you here to discuss changing the earth vein and relocating the immortal mountain, fellow Taoist? Li Xuanxun nodded and replied, I've heard that your immortal gate is reputed to be the best in Jiangnan when it comes to this sort of thing. After all, Mount Chengxi was moved from Su State and earned the acclaim of Profound Peak. I wonder if I could enlist one or two fellow Taoists to assist us. Kang Yu nodded. His gate was indeed specialized in such tasks, and while being hailed as the best in Jiangnan might be an exaggeration, being the best in Yue State was certainly well-deserved. Of course, we can assist you. The cost will depend on the earth vein. I'll need to inspect the land to determine the price. Once you decide, I will retrieve the Dharma artifact immediately, he said. Li Xuanxun nodded in understanding, and Kang Yu left to retrieve his belongings. Shortly after, he returned, hurrying down the mountain with a string of golden ropes around his waist. Let us be off then, he exclaimed excitedly. Kang Yu was an affable person. As they rode the wind together, he laughed and said, Fortunately, my senior and junior brothers aren't here. Otherwise, this job might have been taken by someone else. Being stationed at the peak is a tough assignment. Nothing compares to enjoying the scenery and earning cultivation resources. Li Xuanxun chuckled. He had appreciated a lot of scenery and could agree that it was a nice change of pace compared to staying in the clan. He responded warmly, and Kang Yu let out a sigh. I have to say, Brother Xuanxun, you and my eldest senior brother are quite alike. He governed the gate in his early years but was later killed by monsters. Seeing you, I'm reminded of him. Li Xuanxun offered some words of comfort, but Kang Yu seemed indifferent. Noticing that Kang Yu was heading west, Li Xuanxun asked, Why are we not passing through Yufu Prefecture? There are fewer devil cultivators there. Although you're from the Immortal Gate and quite powerful, there's no need to take unnecessary risks. Many disciples from the 3 sects and 7 gates had fallen victim to the Devil Plague. Kang Yu shook his head at Li Xuanxun's suggestion and replied, We can't go through Yufu Prefecture. The gate has imposed a ban on it for the next 3 years. Trust me, if you go there you might face dire consequences. What? Li Xuanxun's face paled. Having come from Yufu Prefecture with the old monkey, he found the area calm but was now deeply concerned and asked, Why is that? I just came from Yufu Prefecture. Am I in trouble now? Kang Yu took several steps back in the air. His face was filled with fear and his voice trembled as he asked, Did you linger there? Did you say anything? Did you save someone's life? I heard that Senior Li Tangya was closely associated with Taoist master shooting. How could you not have heard the news? Li Xuanxun shook his head and replied, No, I just passed through. When I left home, the ancestor was still. Then you should be fine. Kang Yu sighed in relief and a smile slowly returned to his face. He assured, Don't worry, as long as you haven't made any connections in the prefecture and haven't spoken a word there, you aren't implicated. There's nothing to worry about. If you get involved, it could be disastrous. Not knowing the details could lead to the destruction of your family, though, he added. He stepped forward, causing the jade pendants and jade buckles on his body to jingle, and he said mysteriously, I've heard that even the Azure Pond has withdrawn its forces from Yufu Prefecture. The 3 Taoist masters Yunwu, Yuansu, and Yuanxiu are all focusing on sending this disaster out of Jiangnan and back to Mount Liuxia. Li Xuanxun, still puzzled, asked, Could you explain in more detail? Chapter 439, Story I. Let's talk while we ride the wind. Kang Yu, anxious and fearing that his opportunity to earn might be snatched away by his seniors or juniors, could hardly stay at the foot of the mountain gate for even a moment longer. He soared through Shanji Prefecture as he explained, According to my master, someone from an immortal gate of the Dao lineage on Mount Liuxia in the north has descended to undergo a tribulation. I'm not sure who he is, but his plan is to reach the Qi cultivation realm in 9 months, establish a foundation over 3 years, find a beauty, dismantle clans, eliminate devil cultivators, and enjoy all the benefits of wealth. Then return to the north. That's. Li Xuanxun, though skeptical, could not refute it and simply muttered under his breath, If that's the case, it shouldn't be a problem for us to just pass through there. Kang Yu's face showed a flicker of terror as he responded in a low voice, Fellow Taoist, you probably only think that he's nothing but a genius because you haven't encountered someone like him before. When you meet someone with fate or even metallic essence, you'll understand. Senior Tangya should be aware of this as well. You might want to ask him, he added. After saying this, Kang Yu fell silent and refrained from revealing more details, leaving Li Xuanxun to infer what he would. The two shifted the conversation to other topics, and by the time they left Shanji Prefecture, night had fallen. Kong Yu took out a jade box and placed it on his palm. He puffed his cheeks, blew out a black cloud, and explained, "Fellow Taoist, this night cloud is a Dharma artifact that can provide concealment. Given the dangers on this road, you and your spirit beast should join me in this." All right, Li Xuanxuan accepted his offer without hesitation. Despite Profound Peak Gate's current desolation, it still had a rich legacy. Naturally, as the descendant of Taoist master Changxi, Kong Yu possessed many treasures. With devil cultivators rampant and the two unable to pass through Yufu Prefecture, they were forced to navigate hills and forests filled with wild temples and rogue cultivators, where countless devil cultivators might lie in ambush. It was indeed perilous. They had to pause their journey to cultivate during the day and resume at night. Kong Yu, who was both talkative and knowledgeable in the way of talismans, compared his notes with Li Xuanxuan, and both found the exchange extremely fruitful. One day, as they flew toward the junction of Yue State and Su State, they witnessed a devil cultivator fleeing on the wind, streaking across the night sky like a stream of golden light. A figure behind him, wielding a golden ring, pursued him relentlessly. The scene was all too familiar, and they typically avoided such conflicts. Given that both the immortal and the devil were peak chi cultivators, provoking them was unwise. Kong Yu stopped and whispered, "Those are people from the Golden Tang Gate. The Sidhu family has some engagements with my Kong family, so it's not right for me to just stand by. I'll lend him a hand." As soon as Kong Yu finished speaking, he summoned a jade seal and hurled it directly at the devil cultivator. Li Xuanxuan sighed and began casting spells, using talismans to assist in restraining the devil cultivator. Boom! The devil cultivator, who was already exhausted, was overwhelmed by the combined assault from both parties. With two disciples from the immortal sect pressing on his tail, his several life-saving escape techniques proved futile. He met his end after only a few dozen exchanges. The disciple from the Golden Tang Gate, wielding a golden ring that glowed with a hazy golden light, captured the devil cultivator's body and drew it toward him. It was clear he intended to claim the spoils for himself. "Who are you?" he asked bluntly. Li Xuanxuan didn't feel like answering him, so he moved behind Kong Yu, pretending to be his lackey. Kong Yu frowned and replied, "I am Kong Yu from Profound Peak. It's been a while since I've seen anyone from the Golden Tang Gate. I'm not here to share in the spoils, but rather to repay the favor of the past. I'm helping you out of gratitude." "Oh," the young man replied indifferently, giving Kong Yu the cold shoulder. "Oh, I see that you're a really friendly person, fellow Taoist," Kong Yu remarked sarcastically. Feeling a mix of embarrassment and anger, he swung his sleeves and turned to leave. The young man, however, sneered and said, "And here I was, wondering who you are. Turns out you're from the One Stick of Incense clan." Kong Yu's face flushed with rage instantly. His Dharma artifact flew into the air as he shouted, "How dare you, Junior?" The young man remained unfazed, disdain evident on his face as he said, "Let me remind you that Kong Nunmeng married Sidhu Lei, who was already eliminated by my Sidhu Mo's lineage. If the Kong family dares to mention past favors again, it'll be no different from challenging my family." Letter 240. Kong Yu's face turned into a mix of amusement and anger as he gritted his teeth and spat. "Fool, how did a great man like Sidhu Tang raise imbeciles like you?" With that, he turned and left, ignoring the shocked and furious expression of Sidhu Mo, the direct descendant of the Golden Tang Gate. He quickly took to the wind, with Li Xuanxuan hiding in the clouds. Li Xuanxuan let out a long sigh of relief when Sidhu Mo did not pursue them. Why provoke him, fellow Taoist? The Golden Tang Gate is known for its offensive cultivation techniques, and this Sidhu Mo seems like a legitimate heir. That golden ring he wields is quite formidable. Angering him could spell trouble for us. Even if a fight did occur, Kong Yu, an old man who had failed to break through to the Foundation establishment realm despite nearly 100 years of effort, knew he would not be in immediate danger. However, the outcome might not be as favorable for Li Xuanxuan, who was merely a talisman crafter. Naturally, he feared for his life. Kong Yu sighed and murmured, "In the past, Taoist Master Changxi visited Mount Golden Tang and helped the Golden Tang sect move several mountains, which led to an alliance through marriage. I never imagined that time would fill the Sidhu family with such arrogant descendants." Golden Tang Gate had been in turmoil for so long. Naturally, Kong Yu was aware of the changes within the Sidhu family. The branch of the Kong family that had married into the Sidhu family had been wiped out long ago. The Kong family, being weak and unwilling to make enemies, had opted to focus on maintaining their alliance with the Golden Tang Gate rather than seeking retribution. However, Sidhu Mo's harsh words earlier had only chilled Kong Yu's heart. Clan that lasted only the duration of a stick of incense was definitely an insult that left an impression on Li Xuanxuan. Despite his curiosity, he held back his questions and offered a few words of comfort while waiting for Kong Yu to explain further. Unlike a sheltered disciple who had grown up on the Immortal Mountain, Li Xuanxuan was an astute man, having mingled with the secular world for decades. Given how Kong Yu brought up his deceased senior brother and past favors, Li Xuanxuan realized that Kong Yu was someone who struggled to hide his grief and tended to wallow in self-pity. After a brief silence, Kong Yu finally spoke as expected. To be honest, the Kong family has suffered greatly due to the incident in Yufu Prefecture. My grandfather perished in this affair. While searching for spirit items near Jishui Prefecture in Su State, he lost his senses and acted like a madman. Everything would have been fine if he had found a small tavern to rest, but instead, he insulted a young man. The young man sneered and walked away. 6 months later, he attacked our clan and killed my grandfather. Despite being a top immortal cultivator of the Foundation Establishment realm, my ancestor allowed a mere Qi cultivator to escape. Li Xuanxuan felt as though he was listening to a storybook. How is that possible? He exclaimed in disbelief. Chapter 440, Story II. How is it not possible? Kong Yu's face darkened, gritting his teeth as he continued. The ancestor's son was killed before him, yet in his confusion, he ended up playing a game with that boy about holding on for the duration of an incense stick. He even lost and became a laughingstock. Funny, isn't it? Kong Yu laughed bitterly, then continued softly with a pained expression. The people we sent out lost their minds and became fools to be consumed as mere fodder by the enemy. Ultimately, even our ancestor, who was at the peak of the Foundation Establishment realm, also fell to that boy. He desecrated our family's immortal mountain, dismantled the Kong family, and eventually returned to the north. Where was Taoist Master Changxi? Li Xuanxuan asked, his throat dry from listening to the story. Kong Yu replied softly, Taoist Master Changxi did eventually break through and return. However, within 3 years, our Kong family was scattered and nicknamed the One Stick of Incense clan. Terrified, Taoist Master Changxi relocated from Su State, leading to the founding of Profound Peak Gate. The story left Li Xuanxuan's back drenched in a cold sweat. He sighed as realization dawned upon him. No wonder Profound Peak Gate is in its current state of decline. Most of their cultivators have perished, and they have yet to recover from this incident. Kong Yu continued with a sorrowful expression. The disaster that befell my Kong family is a tale of utter helplessness. I can only imagine how much despair my ancestor must have felt when faced with such calamity. This incident stirred up a sensation in Su State, and the surviving clan members who scattered among various families were well known. Li Xuanxuan asked curiously, do you know the name of that person back then? Kong Yu spread his hands and smiled wryly. A name. I dare not utter it. Li Xuanxuan was momentarily at a loss. After hearing the story, he sensed that something was amiss. If you're so wary of offending him, why persist in publicizing this? It won't benefit your family. It might even save future generations by letting the matter be forgotten. He commented carefully. Li Xuanxuan thought to himself, isn't spreading this story everywhere just sending a message to that person that the Kong family is still resentful of what happened? Kong Yu gazed at him and replied, I dare not comment, resent, or forget this matter. Even if I speak of it, I will tell the entire story, not for any other reason but to spread it far and wide, hoping to appease that person and ensure our survival. After all, it is a tale painstakingly crafted by that person. As long as the story is widely known, the Kong family will stand as a monument to their efforts, and that person may be less inclined to see us perish. If even the villain of the story has forgotten this story, how can the audience still find it engaging? Kong Yu added in a deep voice, Li family. As the year drew to a close and snow began to fall, the day for collecting tributes approached. Li Yuanping meticulously reviewed the records. The Li family now governed 5 peaks and 18 towns, supporting 320,000 people. With the additional 280,000 from eastern Mount Yue, the total population reached 600,000. This population growth was due to the efforts of the 3 brothers, Li Yuanxiu, Li Yuanjiao, and Li Yuanping, who had relocated people from the densely populated Lijiang and Huaqian areas to the newly acquired Mount Huizhong and Yuding. Additionally, the devil plague had driven families on the eastern shore to seek refuge with the Li family. 600,000 people. The Li family's wealth, with its 5 peaks, was second only to the fertile fields of Milin and far superior to the deep mountains and old forests of the Fei family. Supporting 600,000 people was already at the limit of their capacity. Despite having only a handful of Qi cultivators, the Li family boasted the largest number of embryonic breathing realm cultivators among all the families. The establishment of the governance system overnight on the 5 peaks dramatically increased the number of registered embryonic breathing cultivators this year from nearly 200 to over 300. Li Yuanping understood the dynamics well. Prominent families saw the financial benefits and quickly integrated their cultivators into the Li family. Similarly, it also attracted other rogue cultivators to join. Money is certainly motivating. Li Yuanping sneered, his pale face reflecting his disdain. The prominent families and external cultivators probably still keep more than half of their embryonic breathing realm cultivators to themselves, fearing that Li Yuanping might cheat them. He glanced over the lists and muttered, "Once you've registered, you'll no longer have a say. Get everyone to come in." At his command, Du went to deliver the order. A procession of cultivators soon entered, led by Zhayan and Tian Zhongqing. The Ren and Tian families had made significant contributions, so they naturally took the lead, followed by representatives from the Chen, Su, Ren, and other families. Li Yuanping addressed the assembly. The Tian family made the greatest contribution to combating the devil plague this time. Tian Zhongqing, you will be assigned as the peak guardian of Mount Huaqian. Tian Zhongqing was not surprised by Li Yuanping's decision. Li Yuanping's administrative system had 3 key positions: peak manager, peak guardian, and peak overseer. The peak overseer would be one of the direct descendants of the Li family, responsible for overseeing the formation plate. This role did not require an exceptionally powerful member, as the main responsibility was to periodically inspect the formation plate. The rest of the time, the peak overseer could cultivate in peace. The peak manager would be assigned to an embryonic breathing realm cultivator. Their responsibilities included overseeing taxes, general affairs, and inspections. Additionally, about 10 other embryonic breathing realm cultivators would assist the peak manager. Although it was a labor-intensive role, it was not a suitable position for Tian Zhongqing. The peak guardian would be a chi cultivator responsible for guarding and defending against demons and devils. This role required the strongest cultivator, but was also the most relaxed, making it an ideal position for Tian Zhongqing, who, at 40, was in his prime for enhancing his cultivation. Su Gongming will be the peak guardian of Mount Yuding, Su Shumu the peak manager of Mount Huzhong, Su Gongyu the peak manager of Mount Wudu, and Shamali will also be stationed on Mount Wudu as the peak guardian. Li Yuanping only promoted seasoned veterans and officials who had distinguished themselves during the devil plague. Each peak is now governed by 1 chi cultivator, 3 various unrefined chi cultivators, and dozens of embryonic breathing realm cultivators. Most of these embryonic breathing realm cultivators were assigned to farming and other chores rather than remaining on the mountain. With the major positions filled, Li Yuanping skipped the rest. The other cultivators looked at him with anticipation, only to see him lower the document in his hand and say, "There's still a shortage of cultivators. Until the peaks are adequately staffed with embryonic breathing realm cultivators, I will promote those who have shown merit." Li Yuanping observed their bewildered expressions and smiled as he said, "There are only limited positions at each peak. Based on cultivation and merit, each position comes with Dharma artifacts, elixirs, and cave dwellings, which are burdensome for the clan to provide." At the mention of Dharma artifacts and elixirs, the eyes of the guest cultivators, prominent families, and branches grew intense. In a world where devil cultivators were rampant, venturing out could be perilous. Hence, Dharma artifacts and elixirs were highly coveted. The Li family's resources were scarce, and the cultivators under their rule were impoverished. Although the positions at the peaks came with Dharma artifacts, these were expected to be returned upon resignation. Nevertheless, many other families lacked even a single Dharma artifact. Moreover, elixirs and cave dwellings were critical for cultivation. The opportunity to improve one's abilities and extend one's lifespan is hard to resist. Noticing the greed and ambitions in everyone's eyes, Li Yuanping nodded and dismissed the assembly. "The snake demon cave dwelling is larger than I anticipated. The direct lineage won't have to worry about having a cave dwelling to cultivate. These caves on the mountain are surplus. The Dharma artifacts are simply lying around. The only costs we have to worry about are clan stipends and elixirs." Li Yuanping sighed, reviewed a few reports, and prepared to expand the Jade Court Guards and Clan Affairs Courtyard. Salary increases, spirit patties, spirit stones, and elixirs. There's a shortage of everything. The spirit resources at the bottom of Moongaze Lake are simply too scarce. It would be ideal if we could gain access to Mount Dali freely.